think so.
Is it my turn to start us
It's your
off?
turn to start. Unless you want to start playing. You
No,
haven't
I
started
don't.
before.
No, I've never introduced.
You haven't
But you
introduced
can
the
do
show,
that.
so you should this time.
No. I don't
We've
even
done
know
two.
what the. I don't even know what the litany of things we're gonna hear is.
That's
well, we
true.
haven't.
Yeah,
That's
it's
true,
yours,
but
Mike.
we haven't. There
Yeah,
should be
you're
a
the one
general
that knows what's
introduction.
gonna happen. I'm
Okay.
really.
I voted
I
Mike.
think we
Is-
started a minute or two ago, actually.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the Sulphurbath. This is going to be a nice live talk show that we're going to do streaming live
It's
to
gonna
the
be
internet.
very nice.
Yes.
I'm Mike Wilson. I'd like to, what's the word? Introduce Greg Becker
Yeah.
and Blaine Kneece are going to be joining
Thank
me
you.
tonight. Thank you. Yeah. So welcome to Sulphurbath. What's up with you guys?
It's a pleasure. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah. This is. We've been doing this. Well, this is my second one.
Mhm.
You guys have been doing this for
Out
a
of
little
3.
bit. Yeah.
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 So
We got a little bit more time behind us, but
wasn't involved in the first one, but it's nice. I think we got a thing going. It's
Yeah.
fun.
The last
Yeah.
one we did with you as the guest, and now this time you're joining us as
Yeah,
a host,
it's great.
right? So,
I'm glad I get to do this. It's fun stuff.
yeah, cool. The rotating seat,
Yeah, exactly. Let's do it. This is
Yeah.
the hot seat. This is where we switch them out.
the hot seat. And Greg, what have you been
Yeah.
up to? How you been?
well, I mean, we kind of went off to a strong start in the beginning. We had those 2 shows right in a row, one after the
Mhm.
other, less than 24 hours between each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
And then we took some time off. We've thought about it a little bit, and yeah, normal stuff. And now back to it. I think I'm interested to see what's gonna happen tonight.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have reassessed. Things are changing a little bit in our 3rd episode now.
Yeah.
And, we're starting to talk more about the flow of a show. And is it just us here hanging out and talking? And what are we doing? And
Yeah. No, I like it. It's raw, and then you get to. It's like instant adaptation. Like, okay,
right.
do this, do that. We just get a feeling for it, and I don't know. Get to have a little rehearsal time is nice, or just time to talk in general.
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
Gets us loosened up for this a little bit.
Yeah, in a way, I look at it as kind
Yeah.
of like just a slightly more formal. Obviously, we have to set up mics and we have to, set up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, this
but-
is
but
pretty much
slightly
what
more
we'd be
formal than
doing
just kinda
anyway.
hanging out,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
We'd be doing this anyway. There just happened to be a few lights and a camera and some microphones.
Yeah.
And we're gonna
Which is
attempt
great.
to follow a sort of
You know, and it's
what
probably
would we call it?
structure.
Schedule? Structure.
Structure. Yeah.
Something.
Well, that's what
We're
inspired
gonna
us
follow
in the
some
beginning,
semblance
too.
of a word that means
Yeah.
organization. Of
Yeah.
some kind.
We'll have some of that.
Yeah.
A bit of that. But that's what inspired us in the beginning, too. It was like just sitting around having cool conversations and a lot of friends that are artists and great musicians joining
Yeah.
us. And why not try to share that? We can go online so easily now. So here we are.
Yeah,
Here
that's
we
good.
are.
And
And
it's a
hello.
little sweaty tonight, right? It's a little warm
Well,
evening in
yeah.
Brooklyn.
I think you might be a little sweaty now.
Yeah.
Well, it's a
pretty
little-
hot today.
Oh, these lights. Let me get some gels on these lights.
Yeah.
This is pure sunlight. This is all natural, everybody.
Yeah. We'll be doing a show live from the beach one day.
It's almost July in Bushwick, though. I mean, that's respectable. The
Yeah.
heat, you know.
It actually hasn't been that hot yet. So
No.
Not so far.
And,
We're waiting
that's
for
what
it.
I was commenting to myself and maybe to anyone who was listening the other day. I was thinking, we always get hit with summer and we're like, oh yeah, this is great summer. I'm so happy it's here. We always forget about stage 2 of summer when it like kicks in.
yeah, the
And
hard
like
to breathe part.
actually-
When everyone looks defeated,
Right.
you know.
And I'm always remembering
Ah.
summer in this very like spring
Miserable.
/ summer way, and it's very nice and like I'm gonna just be warm all the time and everything's gonna be great. And the same happens in winter. It's like I forget about the bad stuff that goes with the seasons, and
Yeah.
when we get into it, it's just kind of it's a shock.
Yeah, there's just the dread of
Yeah.
waking up, or just looking at the weather report, and you're just like, well, today's gonna be hot, but let me look at the week, and it's just like it's 90s all week long.
Today
Yeah,
was
light
you
the
know, and
coolest
you're
day.
just
of
like,
the
there's no hope in sight.
Yeah.
You're looking for a 10-day forecast, something.
Yeah.
Some reprieve.
With occasional thunderstorms, you can be soaking and hot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're like, it's raining steam. How does that even going on?
I did see a rainbow the other day, though. That was
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
yeah. I was sitting on Dan's stoop, Dan,
Mhm.
from last episode, and we were just sitting there, and it had just rained, and then rainbow, just out
Nice.
of nowhere. Yeah,
We still get rainbows in the city.
Yeah.
I was amazed actually because I haven't seen a rainbow in forever. Not
Yeah,
let
you took a
alone
little time.
ever in the city. I don't think.
Did you take a little time to yourself though?
Oh yeah, I took a video.
When you see it,
posted
you're just
online.
like, oh yeah, rainbow. Okay.
Gotta at
nice.
least sigh once.
You
real
know,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was sitting there, just kind of hanging out, and then it just came into my view. It kind of invaded what I was already into, so I did take advantage of it, yes, but I
Oh
think
my
it took
God.
advantage of me more.
Have you ever seen
Wow.
a double? Or have you ever seen a double
Whoa.
rainbow? Or
I
a triple
have
rainbow?
I have seen a double rainbow, not
Yeah.
a triple rainbow ever.
Oh my god.
It
I've seen some videos.
did excite
online
me, but
Yeah.
it wasn't.
of triple rainbows.
Seen
I
a lot
saw
of-
I saw half a triple, half double decaf rainbow.
Yeah, I had to
once.
verify
So
my
like a-
age just to see that video. It's crazy.
Some rainbows are extreme, you know.
Yeah. Jeez, triple rainbow. Okay, click, click. Oops. Clear browser.
That is not what I expected.
Nice.
Yeah. You never know what's gonna happen.
You don't?
No. 3 rainbows? Do I dare?
And 5-6 hours into YouTube, you might be seeing rainbows even though it's not a rainbow video.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, no, I had this theory on YouTube that like 10 videos in, you should get a little pop-up that just says, "Hey man, you okay?"
Yeah.
You know, just like
yeah.
you know, like you're in the weird part.
Do you remember how you got to YouTube?
Yeah. just like listen, you want to just go make a sandwich, something.
Are you still on track with what you intended to do when
yeah,
you started
like,
this?
Yeah, exactly. You know.
And what about the 50 video mark? You know,
Yeah,
it's got to get more extreme as you go.
Oh my god! Then you're just I don't know where you
Should be
are.
an automatic
It's
shutdown.
necessary. There's something like 1,800 years worth of footage on YouTube now.
Yeah.
As we stand.
I've
I
seen
don't know. I've
most of
gone
it.
on some really, really like you're saying, intense explorations, just like through related videos. And I don't know. I feel like I've experienced things I never would otherwise.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate it, but 6 hours later, when you're like,
Yeah.
oh no, I was supposed to go to work.
Yeah, well, the internet's a weird place, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like we were talking before. It's the wild, wild west.
Mhm.
You can really just drift onto something. And you're like, it's like you stumbled onto a crime scene, and you're just like,
I don't think I should be
no,
here.
thank you.
Yeah.
Just like, I don't think I feel good about
Pretty
seeing
sure I
that.
should go
you know?
home and
You
Or
know?
just
Before I
one
get
more
involved
link
in
before
this.
I end
yeah,
this.
just like, oh, you're like, why is that link purple? You know, like I've been here before. I
Ends
don't
up,
remember that.
Self-torture,
Yeah.
just running through it. You know,
Yeah.
and it's different than watching TV, right? I feel like you can lean back and watch TV for hours and
Yeah.
go and come. And sometimes I'm on the internet watching YouTube videos, and it'll be a 4-hour stretch of just like leaning over into
But
the
you
computer.
feel like you're
know,
in control the whole time because
Yeah.
you're making choices, sort of. You're choosing one of the 10 options that you have on the screen, but you're like, this is what I
Yeah.
desire to do
Mhm.
next.
And you feel like you're onto something no
Yeah.
human has ever been onto before.
Every
Your
single
hand
time.
is
Nobody's
like a-
taking this path. I'm seeing
Yeah.
this now. Yeah.
I sometimes feel like I'm discovering things on Wikipedia that no one else has, but obviously somebody put that there.
Yeah.
Everyone's seen this information before. But
You should
know.
add to the Wikipedia page. You know, oh, I saw it now.
Yeah.
On this day, this is when I read it, and now I'm tuned
I'm
in.
actually, that brings up a really interesting idea. I'm actually really amazed by how orderly Wikipedia is and how little, like,
Yeah,
just
they came together.
bullshit
Nice.
there is there.
And no, in the beginning there was just some nonsense.
Yeah.
Because I put it there.
I remember that nonsense.
But
yeah,
they've
in the
since
beginning you're just
blocked
like,
you.
what? Come on, that's not real. I can't use that in my report.
Mhm.
You know, it's just not a verifiable source. But now it's like apparently it's as reliable as Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
Who,
is
who grades that? Is there a like a body of knowledge above Encyclopedia Britannica?
you're like that. Not a fact.
Like the id
They
of
just cross it
knowledge?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd say it's
Yeah, how do
probably
That's
you
like
judge that?
Guinness.
What's
Who
It's
they
probably the
just they
government.
just authorized themselves Guinness
Yeah.
World Records. Okay, what? Who are you
They
guys?
designed a nice badge.
Yeah,
that they
you
can put
know.
on their webpage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess something.
Like,
we-
"Oh,
we-
I'm
I
from
guess we
Guinness,
agree on
mate.
it.
Yeah. Oh, you jump higher than anybody else. Yeah, here's a beer. They just put you in a book
Right.
They published the book.
until someone disputes
At
it.
one point, that was a bigger deal.
Yeah.
The
Until
fact
some
that they
guy's like,
published the
"Ah,
book."
I did it better.
Well, that's more like you get that and read that if you're in on it, right?
Yeah.
So most people that buy that book,
Yeah.
it's either a coffee table book to give to your grandkids, or it's
Yeah.
like you're trying to pursue something inside there.
Well,
I don't know.
I thought it was created to settle bar bets.
Was it
That might
originally?
be it.
I thought that was what the deal was.
Bar bets. Have you ever done anything with Guinness? Have you ever tried to attain or dreamt
No,
of
that's a good
attaining
one. Though. Like
a
I would
world
like,
record?
It's like an almanac. You know, you flip through it and you're just like, this is just information of no
Mhm.
Purpose.
common denominator. It's just, you know, it's just like anything. Like guy with the world's
The
biggest
greatest,
beard
the
of
least, the
bees,
most,
You know, and you're just
the
like, what?
biggest, the heaviest,
Yeah.
the
One bee
longest.
had the record at one point.
Of what?
Like a bee just landed on a guy's
Yeah.
chin. He's like, I own the record for that.
Yeah.
And then now there's a guy with like a beard of bees that goes down to his chin. That's a world record for that.
And it has
Most
to be
bee
Yeah,
documented.
it's like a
and-
5-pound beard of bees.
Oh
that
man.
belongs in the book right there.
Yeah.
I can't
The
believe
first
that.
one to
Yeah.
make that happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, they have like hula hoop longest, stayed awake
Yeah.
the longest. There's some in there.
There's some
that
extreme
really-
ones, yeah,
really
dangerous
expect-
ones, yeah.
Dangerous is the word I was going for.
I
Was
think
it?
that's what they're going.
Yeah.
I think that's what they're going for.
The extremity
But
of, oh,
sometimes,
you
like,
could be on a high
most
wire the
credit cards.
longest or whatever.
Who cares?
Yeah.
So
there
it's
are
like
a lot of
Rip-
records that don't
It's like
make
a
it
Ripley's
most
Believe It or
sense.
Not where you don't care. You're like, believe it or
Ripley's
not, this guy
Guinness
was.
care or not.
Yeah, you're like, eh.
But
not
the
a big
first
deal.
publication,
Cool.
that if it started with like settling bar bets, right, then the first publication must have been just a
False.
really great party.
Beer
right?
Stain Manifesto.
Yeah, like everybody trying to prove everybody else wrong or right based on
Yeah, well,
this
who
new book.
that must have caused fights to begin with. Like the first editions had to be sloppy.
Mhm.
And you're like,
Yeah.
Especially
no,
the section
actually,
about
I
fighting.
broke this record last week.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's this week's edition.
Well, you got to do
Yeah.
it here and now. I got to see it.
Yeah.
You know, that's apparently the thing. They have to have a witness.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, from what I hear, there are different rules for each record, which is insane because every record is unique. Like,
Yeah.
there are no records that are alike. I guess, like fastest dog versus fastest cat. That's as close as they get. But most of the records are very unique.
Why would there be a fastest dog versus fastest
Oh,
cat?
I don't know. I'm just saying that there would probably a fastest dog and a fastest cat.
I'm assuming the cats are
Fastest
faster.
mammal?
Oh, I don't know.
Do we know actually any of the information we're
No,
talking
no,
about
I'm
right
not,
now?
I'm
No.
not saying that they will
No,
race it.
right.
I
We
know
need this book.
Yeah, if you
Tallest
could call
man
in right
was,
now.
Right.
If anyone's got
8
the
foot
answer to
11
this.
inches. And that's been disputed. Another guy said he was 9 foot and 3 inches. I think they would have just measured him right there.
Yeah, I think they could have just proved it. Like, I say I'm taller. Well,
But from
you're
what I hear,
clearly
it's-
a little
it's,
person.
It's not documented enough, so they are aware, but they can't put it in the book
I see.
because it's not official.
So it's got a seal. Seal of approval.
Exactly.
Makes
They
sense.
should have taken a picture with a ruler.
Yeah.
That's all.
And then they tattoo the guy like, okay,
I'm
until
the
you get a
world's
new
tallest
tattoo,
metric
you
man.
achieve this.
Yeah.
And what about combos? They have like the most tattoos and most bees on your face or something?
No,
Or-
I don't think that they.
We haven't
even
gotten that far yet.
Most cannonballs shot in stomach.
Yeah, in the future it'll be that like
Stayed awake longest.
/ longest talk show intro segment ever.
Yeah,
That'd be
right.
really good.
Who's in the running for that?
Um, Probably some show we haven't seen before.
I think we got the record.
We got our record.
Yeah.
We should have the Sulphurbath World Record book, like its
I don't
own
know.
things
First
that happen
episode
here.
had a fairly long intro. I would say even.
Yeah, that one
Sprawling.
probably went sprawling.
Yeah.
Is it archived? Could we?
It's all
Yeah, we can
archived.
watch it.
Yeah,
You wanna
we
watch
could-
right
none
now?
of it's available
We can
archived.
put it
Yeah,
on
we
now.
we
can
have
play
gotten
the
like
whole
we
that.
can
thing
put a
and
little-
watch the longest
put a little-
intro.
Stamp of approval on this show.
Yeah, pretty soon all the archives will be up on the webpage, and they'll all have a stamp of approval or not, and a little gold star or not next to them.
Our own
If in
personal
fact this
rating of
intro
the
Yeah,
turned
show.
out
that's
to be
our
the
own rating of it.
longest.
We suggest the ones with the stamp and the gold star would be the ones to watch. Tonight's episode will probably be gold star non-stamp.
We should just make unique stamps for each episode.
That's a good idea. And send
you
them out
go
to
the
people.
stamps that you like the most. We'll put the most effort into those.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Dude.
Out of 3
Sounds
so
like a
far,
blue star.
I'd have a lot of choice. So
Yeah. We'll get the first episode of Red
Yeah.
Star, and the second episode, 2 green stars.
I like purple and brown and stuff
yeah,
too, man.
we'll give it 7
so.
thumbs up.
Exactly.
7 thumbs up. So what are we here now? So we're doing a talk show. We're Sulphurbath.
Yeah, this
There was
Yeah,
we put a
we're on a
slate
talk
up
show,
earlier
Mike.
that had an actual title, but have we discussed what the title for it is going to be? Like
Oh,
I don't think so.
we
We'll
haven't,
find
right?
out.
that first night you said "Welcome to the Sulphurbath." I thought it was cool. Tonight's
second
slate
night.
says "Inside the Sulphurbath."
Ah.
That was what,
A little more
something I mentioned to
introspective
Miho
than
that she put
before.
together. Yeah, it'll just keep getting longer
It's a
until suddenly
subtitle.
you're
Put on your sulfur bathing suits, kids.
bathers. I refer to the audience as bathers
Yeah.
and sulfur,
You know.
which is a good thing. It's
You know.
about life and
Yeah.
love and expansion of consciousness
I picture people in
and
hell
a weird word.
in like a kettle.
Yeah.
Just
I picture
bathing,
I
like, you
picture
know,
Yeah.
people just
scrubbing.
hanging out.
There's
in
a little of that there too. The
Okay.
devilish
fancy
hell aspect.
spas that happen to be built
Maybe I'm
on
just
like
morbid.
a volcano face. Go to the sulfur baths,
Yeah, there's a
With
little bit
their
of that,
Vanity
natural
Fair
hot springs
magazines
and
and
such.
their-
Yeah.
But also it's
cigarette
a.
holders.
I actually chose that name long ago, not knowing what it was, and then some day I was working with a lady, and she said, "Oh, Sulphurbath, you do video and photography or something?" And I was like, "I do, but how do you know that?" Based on the name, and she brought up, "Oh yeah, like a bath that you put, a chemical bath when you're doing
Yeah.
photography, or they do steel and tool treatments like that, and they give it a sulfur bath." And
Oh wow.
it was just kind of like this weird term that was floating in the collective unconscious that we
Huh.
grabbed, and it was interesting one day finding a lady who was like, "Oh, you must be a video guy," and I was like, "Well, yeah, that's." I can't believe that worked because that was just a random blathering out of my face
I
one
found
day.
the other.
Good.
I was chosen.
I knew
For
I had
real?
reasons for this.
Rambling introduction, which is fun. That's the bath part of it. Right now we're gonna get straight to the sulfur.
I don't know. I was
Okay.
gonna say this might be the sulfur.
Yeah, I'm
part
down
of
for
it.
the sulfur.
No, it's the bath part.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the sulfur part. Sulfur part that implies a little bit more chemical process, a little more a little more
Bath is a little bit
pungent.
more,
Like
I don't
striking
know,
a match.
Fluid.
Exactly, the fluidity of an intro.
Yeah.
And how it's just like you first sit in a bath and you start getting comfortable, and then you smell sulfur and you freak out and start thinking, what's going on?
Yeah.
What is going on?
So that's a good question. That's
I
a
picture
question you
like
can answer.
charcoals, and then we've been squirting lighter fluid on for a while, and now the match strikes. Sulfur.
Sulfur.
Just made you $1 million, man.
Really?
Yeah, I throw
That's
that in
coming,
the
that's
ads.
Oh yeah. Email
Like
it
a
to me.
It's on the
logo.
way.
Text me my million. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Cool. So and moving along, that was a great intro, and thank you guys for joining again. This is moving along,
That's good
and
stuff.
we're gonna bring out Nick Enix, aka Enix. Nick is a personal friend and a collaborator of mine, and a really great musician. We're gonna
What's
talk
up,
to him and
guys?
play some of his music. What's up, man?
Yeah.
How are you?
Here's a beer for Greg. And I really was dying to say this, but I do hold a Guinness Book of World Records.
Do you?
Oh, really?
World's largest
hold-
pie fight.
You hold one of the books.
Well,
Yeah,
it
it's
was-
largest pie
It was,
fight.
and I'm looking at the
Wait,
stats
is it a
right
big
now.
pie,
Really?
or were there a lot of people?
It was
Yeah.
434 people, 1,200 pies, and 3,750 square feet. So.
And why would you want to fight a pie?
Oh no, this was
Did you
people
win?
fighting people with pies. Yes.
So is it a park or something? Is a big event and
Yeah. So I got a friend text from my girlfriend's friend.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, come support our cheerleading's team. We're going to have a fundraiser. Just come with clothes that you don't mind getting dirty.
Oh, that's a
You
good
You
idea.
show up,
for
and it's a
fundraising.
huge ass tent, and it's, world record Guinness Book. So
That's cool. Was there a previous record that you guys had to break?
I have no idea. And I actually don't think this is probably standing
Yeah.
the record.
Oh,
so.
somebody else must have
good
gotten on
enough.
it.
You were drafted.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was.
For the
I was
pie war.
drafted.
Yeah, jeez.
So
We need
yeah.
Nick.
I went to
Thanks, guys, for
Canada.
having me on.
Yeah, no, it's welcome, man.
Thanks
It's
for
good
coming
having
down.
you. So, like I was saying, we're friends. We've collaborated a lot, right? And you're
Yeah.
always jamming with us and showing us cool stuff. And so tonight, I'd like to ask you a bunch of questions about your music and
Of
your
course.
career going forward. And you brought us some tracks to play for us tonight live, right?
Yeah, so I do music production. I use primarily Ableton Live. I started on Fruity Loops, back in the day
Oh,
on
yeah.
PC. And
Mhm.
I really think production stemmed from maybe like playing with Legos a lot, because it's like
Oh, cool.
building, and you see similarities when you're working in software.
That's
like
a great
that.
analogy. Yeah,
So-
just like bit building.
But I also play drums. I study music education, and I teach part-time as well. So
Cool. And I know, but tell us where you teach. What do you do?
yeah, so I teach in a school, IK 162 Willoughby. It's a middle school. It is just down the block from here. And yeah, thanks for giving us all those instruments. So
Oh, no problem.
yeah.
Yeah. You get a call?
Yeah, it's my girlfriend.
Does she want to be live on the air?
She said she would want to call me while I was live on there.
Oh, yeah,
Are
can you-
you watching?
Can you put her on speaker real quick so she can at least say hi to us?
Oh, I actually just when you the tail
there
end.
is
the
there
tail
another
end,
Guinness?
What did you do?
Well, tail end when you're about to answer it, and then it's just too late.
Oh, I see.
Oh, okay.
Well,
with the
she's.
voicemail.
It could be really important. She was about to ask you if there was some Guinness
Yeah.
record breaking.
She told
event.
me she was just gonna
Oh,
call
she
me
was gonna-
anyway,
I
so I
see.
don't think
Yeah.
it's important. I think that's
Hold
what
that
she
record.
wanted to
Right.
do.
Well, she got a shout out. That's
Yeah,
cool.
So
But yeah, you teach at the school, and so it's a public school, right? And it's
Yeah.
local Brooklyn public school.
it's very different. I studied music education in Dallas, so very different. New York schools, lack of marching band. I don't know if anyone's done marching band. Greg's
Yes,
done
I
marching
have.
band, so it's
They take it seriously in Dallas. I mean,
they take it seriously in
I've
a
not
lot of
experienced
places,
it
and then
myself, but-
it's like non-existent here. So it's been interesting, but I've really had a great time teaching the kids.
Why do you think it's non-existent here? Is it just budget or
It's,
population or?
dude, it's all about the
football.
environment, because there's no space.
Yeah.
They don't have space for football fields. They don't have space for marching band.
Football is the purpose for marching band.
And yeah, exactly.
Not really, but
I mean, they go hand in hand. So
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
something a lot of people living in other states don't know about New York
Oh,
City.
yeah.
Is just how cramped it is and how you lose space in every corner, whether you're talking about your apartment or
I don't know.
parking a car or.
That
I think in
dictates a
some
lot.
cases they even know it and over-exaggerate it. They're like, "Oh, I would never live in New York. There's no space there."
Yeah, they
I
know
live
the
there. It's
over-exaggeration of it,
ridiculous.
but I
It's
don't
like
think
a
they know the
sardine can.
specifics
They all
sometimes.
talk
You know
like they're from New York, apparently.
that you have to have that imitation to go along with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's so cramped over there. Eh? And that's the cliche. But they
It's
don't
like the
know
New
that like
Jersey
schools are
suburb.
suffering, and there are certain specific instances like that. It's just because of how many people are in such a huge city, and the public school system that necessarily doesn't get a lot of money.
it's a
either.
monster of a complex beast. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But how do you find like working with this young generation and kids coming up now?
yeah, it's great. I think they have issues with like creativity though, because they're all looking online, and I don't know if the internet's good for that, and
Like attention span. and they
attention
can't focus
span.
or-
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Creativity.
So, but I've really tried to like let them, compose their own music and try to make them be creative. They have a fear of exploring and maybe like breaking outside the boundaries of the internet.
Right.
So, yeah.
Do you think they have a hard time making their own music because they're just exposed to music?
Yeah, maybe it's we were talking about that earlier. Maybe it's just like a flood of so many options of music.
Yeah, I feel
That
like they
it's
just
like-
borrow maybe from
Exactly,
what's
yeah.
already out there. Like
It's a remix
Yeah.
culture, so
Yeah.
it's different. Yeah.
Do you find that students are? I mean, I don't know. Are they trying to reach an ideal or like try and do it right?
Yeah, no, they're definitely trying to do it right.
Yeah.
And
Which I guess I should explain. I'm posing as being like not the way you would be creative. There is no way to do it right. It's
that's
just
true.
it is the way you do it, and that's very difficult, I think, for someone who's been taught to think very strictly, to then allow themselves to think abstractly.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it's like you tell them what to do one way, and then you're like, now do it the other way.
You're right.
And they're like, what? So
Well, what are you
yeah.
doing practically? You have a lot of instruments for them there. Did they? you
Yeah,
have, like,
so-
brass and band
So
instruments?
we have acoustic guitar, an electric guitar, some saxophones, some drums, and a trumpet. So the school has a lot of resources. They used to have a music program, and now we're just taking advantage of the instruments. So
Okay, and it's like an after-school
It's an after-school
program that kids can
program,
do. Do they have music in school during?
they don't
school
have
hours?
music in school, unfortunately.
Oh, I
So
see.
that's another thing. It's like working with them twice a week can be. That's my challenge. My main challenge is just the infrequencies of being able to work with them. So.
Yeah. I didn't recognize that. I didn't realize that it wasn't a part of school.
No, they got cut like 6 years ago.
Wow.
Is that citywide or all public schools don't have it? or-
I think it was this
school?
school specifically. But when I got there, all the instruments were like in the closet, and like the guitars were all like broken, and like there's
Oh,
little
that's
speakers
fair.
sitting
they
on
left
it.
the instruments there.
They just
didn't
Yes,
closed
they
the room
just
and locked
they're
the
like
door.
throw the
Yeah, exactly.
throw the
Webs
instruments
and
in
all.
the closet and lock the door. Exactly.
Jeez.
Wow.
So
They closed down the
No
music
good.
program
Yeah.
and they just locked the door.
yeah.
And like, this place is over.
And a
come back to
few,
it when
few
you
years
get
later, in walks Nick and dusts it all off, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Basically.
So yeah, it was a good first semester with them. Yeah.
Cool.
I had a
And
great
you had a
time.
performance with them recently too, right?
Yeah, we played a little thrift shop. That was inspired by the
Right?
kids.
Yeah.
They were the ones that told me about the song, and then I watched it and I was like, oh, this is cool. So yeah, and then I tried to teach them about the 12-bar blues and improvisation.
Cool.
Nice.
And then
did they do any live improv?
yeah, they
Or-
did. Well, the saxophone kid, he's very talented.
The saxophone
Um,
kid.
Yeah, I call him. His name's Gerson. I just showed him the blues scale, and then he's playing better licks on the saxophone than me. So
Oh, cool.
he's really talented. And thanks to Karel, who's we'll meet later.
Yeah.
He gave him a lesson. So
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna play some of your music. I feel like we should put on the first of your songs.
Yeah, this,
and
this first track's called Bounced. It's like kind of the dubstep style, like 140 beats per minute, and uses a lot of a lot of synthesizers like Silence. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy.
Cool. This is Enix, Nick Chen, coming up right now. Nick, what just
Alright.
happened? We just played your song, but it was looping through the first part of the song,
You
right?
got to hear the intro very well.
So what I'd like to do right now is to just have you guys just chat for a bit, and I'm gonna queue up the other songs to make sure that they all play properly all the way
All
through.
right,
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
We're back live, and this is Blaine, Greg, and Nick Chen talking.
And this is Mike leaving. Bye, Mike. So, Nick, you want to
Yes.
scoot on over?
Yeah, I'll scoot on. Just make sure that there's no awkward distance between us.
Yeah.
Oh, this is kind of close.
This is an awkward distance.
Yeah,
It's more of an awkward closeness, but
Name of
still a
distance.
distance. It's a displacement. It's a space between us.
the space between us.
Yeah.
Right.
Distance is awkward.
Yeah. There's a lot of things that are awkward. I think we could talk about awkward for a long time.
I think
here.
we can make. I think this.
think
We
it's
can
a
make this very
There's
awkward
a
right now.
predominant part of life that is just being awkward. It's rumored that there are people that don't feel this.
No.
Yeah.
Do you guys know about that?
Yeah.
No,
I mean,
who are these people?
Yeah.
like probably like Miley Cyrus and.
I don't know.
What?
I'm just trying to think people who don't feel awkward. you
Yeah,
know?
she must not
She's
feel
gotta
awkward.
feel awkward.
Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
definitely.
feels awkward.
He does not feel awkwardness. I
What?
don't think it's a feeling he knows.
Well,
He would. I don't think he'd be with us anymore if he knew what he was up to,
he's dead.
or his. No. Who's
dead?
He's not.
Oh,
I'm saying-
Billy Ray Cyrus.
feel
Billy
like
Ray
he's
Cyrus is not dead, everybody.
Okay.
Breaking
It's on
news.
Twitter. It's on Twitter.
Breaking news. He's
Okay.
not
I feel like if he
dead.
had a shred of self-awareness, then he.
And that's
he-
one more shred than he's got.
Yeah, exactly. then maybe he'd probably run away or something, or just like not be filmed anymore.
I'm
But
ready
I don't mean
for-
to focus on Billy Ray. That's
I'm
really
ready
not
for
my point
Achy
here.
Breaky Redux.
Who's that?
Redux?
Yeah, like the
It's time to come
anniversary
back.
album.
Yeah.
10-year
Yeah,
edition.
with like extra tracks. Yeah.
Achy
Now
breakiest.
more breaky.
The breakiest
Yeah.
of breaky editions.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Remixed with
Yeah.
Akon.
Crow, why don't
Yeah.
you come join us?
I could see it. I could see it. Yeah, welcome.
No,
We're
I'm
bringing-
actually surprised now that you're saying it that it hasn't happened.
Yeah, you know.
Because-
Hello.
At
You know,
least at a-
Miley's.
at
Miley's
least at
hey,
an
what's
ironic
going on?
level.
We're introducing Karel here.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
He's coming in a little earlier than expected.
So we
Yeah.
were
It's
discussing
okay.
Miley Cyrus, and
Yeah.
we're wondering what your opinions might
Just
be.
in general.
And you know what? You can just not have an opinion too. If that's
Didn't she
cool.
get really hot all of a sudden?
So that's your opinion at this point.
she did look.
Is that-
I feel like
she does
that's-
look a
Is
lot.
She's
that
like,
what
kinda,
you're
she
saying
got
from my
divorced.
opinions?
She divorced. She was gonna marry this
Divorced, yeah.
guy. She didn't get married. She's gonna marry
Okay.
this guy, and then they broke off the marriage.
Yeah.
Which guy?
I don't know, some guy.
It's news to me, so
Yeah.
I continue.
That's all I
Please
know,
Don't tell
Oh.
his heart. His achy, breaky heart.
dude.
We'll call him back.
Don't get more breaky on me, okay?
Yeah, I don't want to get more breakier.
Oh no.
Okay, yeah. So my next song is gonna be
Based on
Yeah.
Miley
re-
Cyrus.
yeah, based on
a
Miley
tribute.
Cyrus
In fact,
It's
and
a cover. No.
Heartbreaks. Yes, it's called Regression to the Mean. It's more of a house tempo, 4 on the floor kick, and I use some guitar sounds, some ukulele sounds, and stuff like that.
Is there an inspiration for this song?
This one, the title "Regression of the Mean." So I was trying to kind of like come up with like a stock song, like what's
Yeah.
like stock dance techno.
Yeah.
And the intro, you're gonna definitely hear that. It's very. I try to make it as like almost video gamey and classic techno as possible.
so it's like break beats.
No, it's like straight
So-
4 on the floor.
It's not more breaky.
No.
No, okay,
Less
yeah.
breaky?
Less breaky. Than
Less
It's a little
breaky.
achy.
Wow.
That'll be the last one. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
But do you feel like that's the not to delve too deep into it, but do you feel like that's the impression that you want to give with it? Like, do you feel like that there's a part of your presentation that requires you to do that particular piece of music?
Yeah, I'm Greg. That question's just like way over my head.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, like,
yes or
what
no
about,
answer is
what
okay.
About, what
No.
appeals to you? What appeals to you about that? Like, why would you hit the stereotype? Like
Yeah.
the
Okay, I got you.
like what do you like it? Is that your
Yeah, I just feel like it's fun to do the stereotype sometimes. Fun to be poppy,
yeah?
and it's like getting the average of everything. You can then expand outwards from there.
So is the message like pop is average? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd say.
All right.
Yeah, poppy is.
That's
Yeah.
the bottom
we
line.
want the average
here.
here would be pop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh?
All right, that was awesome, Nick.
Thanks, guys.
Yes. Tell us about that song.
You guys didn't hear that shit, so you're lying right now. But
We heard it through the headphones, and I've heard
that
it
was
before
fake. That was
personally.
fake. But yeah, so that
So,
song was.
I know it's awesome.
That was show magic right there.
A
So
little bit of show magic.
Here's
There's
how
no
I did
editing
this card
live.
trick, guys.
Yeah.
yeah. So
This is actually tomorrow compared to the other segment.
yeah, the song. I didn't even hear it. What song was that?
It was
Regression
just
to the Mean.
Regression
Yes.
to the Mean,
I
yeah.
think we already talked about that. So maybe
We did.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
talked about it in the
I was
intro.
fiddling, and it was the
Yeah, we were
2-minute
saying-
awkward
We were
moment.
saying it was like not stereotypical, but like hit the
Yeah.
the tropes of what it means to be a pop song or like
Yeah,
a
just-
house. You said it was.
I was just thinking classic techno. You
Yeah.
know? Like driving in midnight. Listen to techno.
That's
That's
cool.
how you feel about it.
Yeah, that's how I felt about it.
And you incorporate a lot of other things, right? I know you partake in gamelan music
Yeah,
and
so
stuff like that.
I perform with gamelan here in New York called Dharma Swara. Gamelan's music from Indonesia,
Mhm.
specifically the music. I mean, they have, Indonesia has so many islands, and each island, of course, is going to have different types of music
Mhm.
because they're, isolated. So the gamelan style I play and use in my compositions is from Bali specifically. And what's awesome about gamelan is that it's like an ensemble of metallophones, which are metal keyboard instruments. And when you hear it live, it's like nothing else you've ever heard because it's loud, and each instrument is tuned, detuned from each other. So they create, when you have something that's not playing in the same tune, it gets this wave sound. They call that ombak. And it's a very unique aspect of gamelan.
So they play like the dissonance of the music of the instruments.
Yeah, the two instruments would be like male and female, and it's interesting because female is actually lower pitched and male is higher pitched, which you'd think the opposite. But when they play together, the same note, it's like maybe 20 cents below the pitch and 20 cents above the pitch. If you're like looking at like Western temperament.
What is a cent?
dB or so.
Yeah, now you're gonna make me look stupid, Greg.
No, I'm sorry. My point was I have no idea what that is.
50
Yeah,
cents
no.
is a half step. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So like a percent of a step.
Yes.
We're gonna go with.
Yes.
So
So
exactly what it means. We
So it's
know.
like 2 steps for $1.
that's how I teach
Basically.
kids.
You
yeah.
get a haircut with that?
Everyone
Just
speaks
trying to
money,
get the
right?
conversion going.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically those instruments, when they play the same note simultaneously, you'll hear like a wave. Ooh.
So they're off a little less than like a quarter step from each
Yes,
other.
exactly. It's not too much. It's not
Right.
drastic.
Now, is that considered when I'm hearing about microtones? Is that microtonality? Are you creating-
Yeah, exactly. I mean, not like another music I do is South Indian music,
Mhm.
and that's a little different when you're talking about microtonality. Those are like notes between, piano notes we have on the keyboard. And that's very important in a lot of music.
Mhm.
In this, it's more like fixed, and you can't really explore too much in the microtones. It's like they hammer the instruments and then they're tuned. So.
Well, I've experienced you guys playing live many times actually now, and what you say is accurate. It's really amazing, something to see live. It's a huge orchestra, and just hearing that, it's something you don't hear normally in live.
Yeah.
It's like super amazing to see it live. Yeah.
Yeah, even the instruments themselves are like ornately carved,
Mhm.
and
So ceremonial. And
yeah,
everything,
exactly. Yeah. So it's really cool.
Grandiose.
Grandiose.
Very grandiose. Yes.
Well, probably the making of it is almost a ritual.
It is actually, yeah. They actually have a priest like listen to the gong
Yeah.
before it's ready to be like either sold or put into an ensemble. So like he hears it and he's like, mm-mm. So they
Hmm.
go back and hammer it.
That's
so
cool.
you say a priest. Is this linked with religion in some way like in Bali?
Yeah. So I'm not too familiar how much the music ties in. Gamelan itself, I would say, is non-religious music.
Mm-hmm.
Versus some other musics that are like really tied to religion and other cultures. But Indonesia is mainly Muslim, and so it is tied to the religion. I'm not sure like what sense. So
And you incorporate a lot of this kind of traditional sounds with the modern stuff you're making now too, right?
yeah. So this last track I'm gonna play has gamelan sounds with trap drums, which I've recently started producing trap music, and that's
Cool.
like the fast hi-hats and
Yeah.
really sub-bassy bass. So if you don't have any, if you're playing this from your computer, you're gonna lose a lot of the sub. But yeah, so if this next track is "Watch Out," it's A, and it has the gamelan tracks. So.
Yeah, and how do you find, so you're actually an authentic gamelan player traditionally. How do you find mixing the world of that with kind of more of a modern techno world? I mean, it seems like the gamelan that I've heard has been kind of like fast-paced, and some of it naturally feels like four on the floor for dancing.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, it's a very dance culture-based kind of thing.
I think it's
How
a
do you incorporate
natural.
that?
I think it's a natural fit. Gamelan has a lot of more tempo changes and sometimes like accelerandos and decelerandos, which you don't see too much in dance music.
And speeding up of the tempo and then slowing it down
Exactly,
again.
yeah,
Right.
and like almost like a melacity of the rhythm and time, the tempo, viscosity or something like that, you can say. But as far as like the rhythms, it's great for electronic music because they're very polyrhythmic. The nature of the rhythms is that they're splitting off of each other, and it sounds really cool when you put effects. You can pan them out stereo and stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah, I've heard this track before. I really like it. So,
All right,
yeah.
well, thanks.
What's it called once more? We're going to...
Watch out, it's a trap.
Okay.
And,
before we play it, we're going to say goodbye to you, right? So
thank you. I feel bathed in sulfur,
All
and
right.
I had a great time, guys. So thank you.
Nice.
job, guys.
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much, Nick. So, yeah, playing one of Enix's tracks right now.
Soon.
In a second. Almost now.
Almost.
Welcome back. This
Welcome
is
back.
weird, awkward. Welcome back to our show. So that was the music of Enix, which you can find on SoundCloud. And yeah, what's the actual webpage?
Slash isn't on that record.
ENIX.
Thank you. Excellent. That was Nick Chen. What was the title of that track again?
Trap.
Watch out, it's A.
Trap.
Anyway, that was the music of Enix. And thanks again, Nick. That was cool joining us. It was really good to have you, man.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so now we've got Karel VanBeekom with us. How you doing, Karel?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. I know Karel's personal friend and collaborate. And we sit and we... Yeah, just move right past him, man. And we sit and we talk and we philosophize a lot.
Collaborateur.
Yeah.
And he's going to join us tonight
like
just to
that,
have kind of a discussion, almost a political discussion of sorts.
Well,
Sorts. I think it's
I
gonna
don't think
be
it has anything to do
exactly-
with really politics.
Uh-huh.
You know, like
Okay.
people. I think politics has to do with parties, and I think this has nothing to do with parties, really.
Hmm.
Anyway, everybody really knows about, or most of you probably have heard about the NSA wiretapping and all of these different observational groups that have been potentially listening in on your conversations and your emails and storing all these things in a gigantic database in Utah and what have you. But beneath all that, I want to talk about a journalist tonight who was named Michael Hastings, who died tragically on June 18th in a car accident at 4:35 a.m. in Los Angeles. And there are some very strange circumstances surrounding this death. And I thought it would be very interesting for us to talk about.
Yeah, when you mentioned it, I thought that was a great topic to bring up. You know, it's controversial journalism. I knew a little bit about this guy and read a bit about him. I know he kind of just recently proclaimed that there was kind of a war that journalists need to take up, the war of truth, the war of real journalism versus, you know, pulling strings for powers that be.
Or getting paid, you know, by
Yeah.
them. I
Mhm.
think that's really a lot of what the problem in journalism is. From what I hear from these people, is a lot of journalists, because they're being paid by the same corporations that are paying all of the media outlets, they have to make their living through journalism, or so they think, and so they say what they need to say in order to get paid.
Yeah.
That's a big problem.
Conflict of interest.
Yeah.
So can you give us a little background of Michael Hastings? And
Yeah, Michael Hastings originally started reporting for Newsweek during the Iraq War, and was in Iraq during the first few years of the war, where his fiancée was killed in a botched kidnapping.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's really
didn't know that.
tragedy. And so I don't know how specifically that affected him, but I'm sure it wasn't positive. And
Mhm.
since then, he's written for Rolling Stone and was writing for BuzzFeed at the time, and actually wrote a huge story for Rolling Stone in 2011 called "The Runaway General" that ended up getting General McChrystal fired from the United States government, and he was at the time the managing general of Afghanistan. So it's really a big deal that this guy was kind of stirring the pot in ways that maybe people weren't too into.
Yeah, that's huge. I saw some bit where he was talking about, like, he said, you know, I thought that, you know, he would be over it in 18 minutes. There's no chance I could threaten this general's position with anything that I said.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be a little more specific about that, he was reporting on some of the stuff that McChrystal was dropping. He spent some time with him, right, and he got more comfortable
About a month,
with him.
yeah, in Afghanistan.
And as he got more
And
comfortable, he
traveling
started
with him.
talking a little looser about his role and about Obama and stuff, right?
Sure, yeah. It seemed as though McChrystal and Obama were working together at the time, but I guess personally didn't ever really get along. And, you know, 21,000 troops added to Afghanistan. It's the most troops that have been deployed anywhere for
Yeah.
a really long time. So, yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what finally tipped it off, what about this article indicted him, but it's very casual, the conversations that are reported. You should read the Rolling Stone article. It's called "The Runaway General." And it's very interesting. So
Anyway,
anyway,
I saw that today. That's available still. All of his articles are available easily online. Yeah, you can get
there's a
them.
lot of stuff on there, and
Mhm.
specifically, I want to talk about his death and the things that seem a little strange about that. He died in a car accident, like I said, at 4:35 in the morning. He was the only car on the road. He ran a red light at Melrose in Los Angeles and ended up losing control of the vehicle and crashing into a palm tree, where the car burst into flames and he was killed, pronounced dead on the scene. Eyewitnesses at the scene say that the car was out of control before it seemed to lose control. It was traveling, as one person said, as fast as the car could go. The speedometer was maxed out. And there's actually footage from a dashboard of a police cruiser in Los Angeles that sees the car run a red light and follows the car for about 2 minutes. About a minute and 45 seconds into the video, it comes upon the scene where this car is in flames. So it's very strange. There's a consultant to several different White House administrations that in his own words, said it seemed like a car cyber attack, as though the car was manipulated from the outside. Not to get too theoretical about this, but the car, he certainly wasn't in control of the vehicle, and there was no one chasing him. The very suspicious thing about that incident is earlier in that day, Michael Hastings wrote an email to his friends and loved ones saying, listen, I'm about to write a story that's going to expose the CIA, and I'm a little bit fearful for my life, so I'm going under the radar for a while.
Yeah,
And
kind
that
of
was
a panicked email,
Right,
right?
yeah, and it was the last communication anybody heard of him before this accident.
And he was telling friends and family that they would probably be interviewed by the FBI. He was convinced that there was some sort of FBI.
Some kind of investigation.
Going on, yeah.
Ongoing into his investigation, yeah.
And that was mere hours before his accident, right?
Had the thing he written been submitted anywhere? Like, do we have that?
Yes, yeah. He sent it to his friends and loved ones. There's
Okay.
people that
Is
have
it out
Well,
now?
what-
You
I
can
don't know.
find
I
it, or-
couldn't give you a link or an encyclopedia article as to what
But
it
that's
is,
what we're looking for, is what he was working on, kind of.
Yeah, that's kind of what everyone's curious about. What was it exactly, his work? What was
So
his work?
do we have any details on the work that he was referring to in the email he
The
sent?
four of us, I don't think, have any details on the work that he was referring to.
Yeah.
But someone does, I'm sure.
I mean, this all basically just happened
This
too,
is
right?
June
so we're still
18th.
waiting
This
for
is like
yeah.
not even 11 days ago.
Yeah.
This happened. Yeah.
They're
And
probably digging through his apartment right now.
I'm sure like
Realistically, we're
everything that he had was
consuming- We're
confiscated
consuming
at
the
this
media
point.
that we're being presented. Like, we can't go and find out on our own.
Yeah, exactly.
In a grand sense of it, but really, we don't absolutely know more than the police cruiser video we've been given and the details we've been released to in different articles.
Really, yeah. I mean, the primary sources that there aren't particularly deep.
But really,
Yeah.
really mysterious. Like the circumstance you're talking about the car wreck itself. Like, didn't they find the engine like
the
200
transmission. It was the transmission, like
Transmission?
200 meters away from the car,
Right.
as though the transmission already was disconnected from the vehicle. Also, the one eyewitness that I saw interviewed on the internet somewhere today, it was on a news station local to the area, said that he saw the car was flaming and shooting sparks from the rear of the vehicle even before it lost control and crashed into the tree. So something was going on with that vehicle.
It's not a very regular occurrence.
Yeah, it's not, or it's a very irregular occurrence for a Mercedes to be driving 120, 150 miles an hour through surface streets in Los Angeles, running red lights at 4:30 in the morning
Right.
Yeah.
without anyone in pursuit.
But what are we thinking that could be so damning? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what could be?
Well, all this
Like,
media
let's
attention has
just,
been
like-
focused on Edward Snowden lately, right? Who
Right.
The person who leaked all of these documents, or one of the people who's responsible for leaking the documents that put the American government in such an awkward position. So this happened at pretty much the same time. I don't know what it could have been, but I feel like it could have been on par with that, or it could have been operatives.
Well, at the same time, if you look at all the articles that he wrote leading up to this, I mean, he was writing about the new drones the military are creating
He was
and how
constantly
crazy.
criticizing Obama to his face at press conferences about drone warfare in the United States.
And he had the article about that. Yeah, so I mean, I think that there were a lot of things leading up to that he was kind of tying into. He had, I think, he appeared on the Young Turks, the online show, talking about how there's actually a new war of journalism starting. Where, in what he was saying, it kind of sounded like he was ready to fight for what a journalist should be doing. And that brings up this broader question: is
Exactly.
the role of journalists in society? Who are they reporting to? The people, or they have vested interests in mind? And are we dealing with a power structure so bold as to just take them out when they want to? And from what I understand in the past histories that I've read about certain people, whistleblowers, etc., seems like your life is on the line the second that you blow a whistle on the powers that be, right?
Historically, if you look at the histories of the world, of the different societies in the world, anytime there was any viable contention to the powers that be, they immediately execute them. I mean,
Yeah.
It's not like out of the ordinary.
That's nothing new. And at the same time, it's like if you think about media, you're either the mouth of the power, offering that kind of information and propaganda that they want, or you're considered just a revolutionary, right? And so you're going to be pressed down.
Yeah.
You're going to be thrown to one
Yeah.
side or the other.
But at the same time, like on a strangely optimistic tone, like what a foolish time to undertake a war against journalism, especially when everyone is a journalist.
Yeah, everyone has
yeah.
the capability of being a
like,
journalist. Yeah.
You can't win this. This is not going to
Well-
be winnable by a government.
But that's the other thing it brings
when
up
everyone is recording everything at all
I think it's
times.
interesting that we're all operating under the assumption that this was some kind of assassination. Like there's some other power that's behind
Well, I
it.
find
Like
just
it's so
taking-
easy
I
to
find
believe
it
that
just
now.
difficult
I'm
to ignore.
Assuming,
Which
you
is
know?
terrorism, right?
Mhm.
Interestingly enough,
Well-
you're killing this person and you're putting people in fear
Yeah,
of
that's
their
absolutely
life.
true.
you
Oh
know?
yeah. State-funded terrorism is the strongest form and branch of it. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But I mean, as to what you're saying about everybody being able to take part in the media today, there's still a certain exception where you need to know the right people. You need to be in those circles. Like
I don't know.
he was actually in with McChrystal and was able to get this information because he had that ticket to get in as a journalist.
I think that's
Not everybody can
currently
do
true.
that.
But I think to credit what Blaine is saying, that I mean, look at what we're doing right now. We're voicing our opinion about what we think, and we're trying to make sure that opinion goes to someone else who had.
Yeah, but I don't get to hang out with Bernanke and Obama for
Well,
a couple
that's like-
weeks
well,
and
yeah,
get
Beyonce
in-
for that
insight.
matter.
or
Yeah.
like Bradley
Well,
Manning,
Beyonce.
though. You know what I mean? Like, he, total soldier, took it upon himself to release these things to WikiLeaks. Like, that was never a possibility.
And
Yeah,
even Edward
it's true.
Snowden came back and said the only reason that I started working for the NSA in the first place was to get into a position where I was able to relate documents of importance to people that needed to know the things that were happening.
Well, that's interesting. Like he had a
Yeah.
wider scope of it the whole time,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Well, and that also brings up, there's so much going on now. It seems like this new forming police state, and we can go on the rants and you
This
look
has been
into
going
your
on since like the 1920s. The
Mhm.
police state in the United States is not a new development; it's just a very gradual development that people seem to be more and more comfortable with as things get creepier.
Mhm.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you introduce a little change at a time, you can justify each one with a little bit more weird propaganda,
Yeah.
a little bit more media coverage, a little bit more, just rationalization every time something new comes up. So yeah, we find ourselves in a position where everything is frightening. You can't have a thought that's too radical without being worried. Well, is this gonna threaten my life? And that's awful. It's awful that we can't, as a collective people, say these are the people who are trying to look out for us. We need to protect them. And as the masses, as everybody who's involved in that, we could do it, but it's.
Do you think
It's
people
so
really feel like
difficult.
they can protect themselves, or they're in a position to protect themselves from powers?
It's
greater
funny
than
you
them?
say that, though, when in talking about Snowden, though. Like, specifically, he's protecting himself by going public.
Yeah.
Because if something bad happens, you better
Everybody
believe
knows about it.
everyone knows. Everyone
Yeah, I don't know if you
knows.
guys heard.
He
There's
almost ensured his safety.
he did in fact because
Yeah.
he gave copies of unreleased documents to several people, saying,
Yeah.
"Listen, if anything happens to me,
Yeah.
then is the time to submit all of this information," which may or may not be the truth. Who knows? But
Yeah.
it's very interesting as far as I'm concerned.
Mhm.
I'm curious now that everyone kind of is aware of the observations that the United States and other governments, not just the U.S., are
Oh,
putting
yeah.
on their people.
Mhm.
Do they now have implicit permission to observe everything that we're doing? Now that they realize that we know that they're doing it, are they doing it more?
Yeah, does
yeah,
that
are they
excuse
just
it and
gonna
allow
keep
it
doing
because
it
we
and be
haven't
like, what are you
reacted or
gonna do?
something?
Yeah. What do we have?
Well,
What do we do
that's
about it?
the
Let's
predominant
let's
let's
opinion that I
disconnect
have
our
of it.
Facebook account. Let's turn off our cell phone. Let's what are people really going to do? What choices do they have to
Yeah.
disconnect from the environment that is observed now?
Yeah.
None.
The systems are in
Mhm.
place and we use them. Are we just going to stop using them?
Yeah, I mean, because
Yeah.
I don't think people are creating their own systems that are telecommunication systems. There's not that much, choice out there.
Well, my opinion of it is there should be a choice and that we should work on it. And that's a big idea.
Yeah, you want to make a telecommunications company?
I want to.
Yeah,
I want to
right.
make the pirate internet.
That's
I
big.
want. I want everyone to install software so they can speak computer to computer and cut out the whole power structure. That's putting it
Battlestar
together.
Galactica, Admiral Adama, he said no networking. I don't want anything networked on my ship, and that's the only reason they could defeat the Cylons. Just saying.
Because it wouldn't network.
Yeah.
Well,
And that's the path we need to pursue. Less networking, more direct interaction, one-to-one with your computer. But no, I mean, of course, all this brings up the greater issue is, the more is happening now in the media. We see more happening in the media because everybody's more connected in with the internet and everything. But at the same time, the clutch that's happening on civil rights and the freedom of speech that's happening, cops are getting more and more brazen with arresting people without stating why they're being arrested. It used to be you could get in one of the situations with a camera and saying, "Sorry, officer, can I leave now, or am I being detained?" And those rules are getting blurred now a lot. I mean, I'm seeing a lot
Patriot
of
Act, dude.
Patriot Act, and just corporate influence, telling the
Yeah.
cops now you can be a
Also,
little more brazen.
I feel like it's citizens themselves not knowing their rights.
that's a
Yeah.
lot to do with it.
They're
yeah.
not
Absolutely.
being taught what they don't have to say.
Yeah.
What they, you know what I mean? Like they're just like the system's in place where like the less you know, the better.
And if you're one of those
basically.
people who
Yeah,
goes
just
out
go
there
get a
and-
job.
You know,
Just
and
go
just
to
be like,
work.
well, wait, I can
You
just
don't have to
record
think
the
about
cops.
this. You
Yeah,
know,
I can record the cops.
everything will be fine. You'll get your beers at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Go home and watch television.
That's it.
Like, don't worry about
That's
this
all
stuff.
I said.
Why are you worrying
Just-
about
just
this?
Yeah,
keep
well,
it-
it's like
keep it
satiation.
nice.
It's like the Orwell thing versus the Huxley thing, right? Is it going to be, cops at your door with guns, or are they going to coerce us
I
into
was
a
gonna be cops at
situation?
your door with candy. You can be like,
Yeah,
take this
exactly.
candy.
Yeah.
guy.
Little
Oh,
hybrid
thanks.
of the two.
Yeah.
This is such comfortable
Yeah,
candy.
not doing it is so much trouble.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
But I mean, we said here today with all this technology, and it's like we have been forewarned, and there have been many people jumping up and screaming and giving their lives to warn you about that.
Yeah, we're way
But what are
past
we
the
going to do?
warning
What
at
are we
this
going to be
point.
able to do? How Yeah, but I mean, the warning is still existent all the way up until
Oh right, absolutely. But it's
complete fascist slavery, I guess, is what
yeah.
could be the end game.
Like
there.
you
I
said,
mean,
you mentioned Orwell and Huxley. There was a famous letter George Orwell wrote to Aldous Huxley, who was his teacher at Oxford,
Yeah.
and said, "Listen, will you read 1984 and tell me what you think?" And Huxley said, "This is a really good book, but I feel like things are going to happen the way that I wrote it. No offense, in 1928, saying people are going to be willing slaves. People are
No
going to be
offense, I think
willing
my
to
book
give
was a
away their
little better.
freedoms because of the things that make life easy."
yeah, and if you don't
And
go
that's what's
along with it,
happening
you're
right
living in
now.
the wilds or the
Right.
projects or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
You're not included. You're
Mhm.
out. You're an outsider. You don't
And the
have an
satiation of the drug and all the drugs and alcohol and everything, all the satiation.
iPad. Yeah.
So that's
yeah, and the
mhm.
trick is not to get you to take a drug. The trick is to get you to want to take a drug.
All the
Then I
time.
don't have to do the work.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Then like,
well,
you're
if they
hooked, you're
convince
in,
us
you
all
know?
that we're depressed and then get us all to take antidepressants, then haven't they done that?
Yeah,
It's there,
it's just like this is what
done,
you need.
finished.
Yeah, this is
accomplished.
so
Next
much
Yeah,
step.
easier.
don't worry
Mm.
about the world's problems. Just take this pill and go to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just be a good cog.
I actually have to work tomorrow. Do you have any?
No,
You weren't talking to me directly, right?
No. Take
Okay.
and one goes to work.
Well, I mean, yeah, so many drugs are like that now. Alcohol, and so it's so easy just to be a smoker and a drinker and legal drugs and just go to work every day and make it and everything.
Yes, certainly is easy.
And so I'm actually out of my beer. Speaking of which, so
That's
Yeah,
What,
that
for a
made
beer
me
break?
thirsty.
we don't have any more songs to play. We can't really have a sneak
Oh.
quick cut. We're going to introduce Justin in a second, but I mean, I guess is there anything that you want to close with to talk about? We've
Yeah,
kind
what
of
other
freedom of speech is a huge thing, right? Okay, so that's something that
Can't say
and there's
that.
this whole movement of constitutionalists now, right? And they get mixed with like the Tea Party and everything, and people watch the news and they think everything
This
is
going to take me into a
skewed
completely different direction because there's a lot of
Uh-huh.
people that believe this Constitution living document and Constitution as like dogma, and that's a very interesting thing,
Yeah, and where it was written at the time it was written, it wasn't necessarily that all men were created equal.
Yeah.
Of course, you can if you
We live in a
consider slavery and
culture. We
everything.
live in a culture that loves dogma because it gives them security, right? They
Yeah.
believe in whatever
Finality.
whatever it is that they believe in.
Absolution.
They don't have
Yeah.
to doubt it because then they don't have to question reality. They don't have to change.
Yeah,
And when
settle
changes
into the
happen,
groupthink
They
and-
don't have to adapt to those changes. They can just accept that the things are the way that they were told.
They don't
and
need to be
continue with
living
that.
themselves.
But what's
Right.
funny is the brilliance of the original documents are that like we can change it.
Yeah, it's amendable.
Yeah,
People
you
have
know,
heard
like
this. Thomas
but
Jefferson
really,
is like
like
every
every
25
years,
years.
want
there's
to-
a
do
revolution.
you want to go
Yeah.
through all
But,
that
like,
trouble?
It's almost it's the genius of the document,
Right.
or just the thought process to be like, listen, we've created a form of government, but it might not always be perfect. Like,
Right.
We're able to change it at any time, guys.
It's up to
Following
you.
that,
It's up to
following that
all of
lead
you.
though.
It's like we don't know where we're going to be on 200 years from now, 250.
Yeah,
years,
and
300
following
years
that
from
lead now,
you know?
250 years later, it seems
Yeah.
like we're in a corporate state, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So following that's the big contradiction now, and where it becomes like, how accurate were those guys to where we sit today and now in a global
Well-
environment? Things have changed, and maybe parts of the Constitution aren't the be-all, end-all document. It's not the perfect document at the same time,
No,
So there's
yeah.
a very interesting.
But it's perfect in that it's adjustable.
Right.
But well, when you can
That's
adjust
what
it,
makes it perfect.
Yeah,
is just
theoretically,
like-
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, how
Theoretically,
easy
definitely.
is it to really adjust a document in our country when you have people that like are career politicians that
Oh.
are trying to keep everything in political deadlock as part of their career so they can be
Yeah.
reelected and then find their little pressure points to
Well, there
talk
are
about.
ways to change the rules without amending the
Well, I feel
Constitution.
like
Also,
the
I mean,
first
they
things
write in.
adjusted were the restricting who is able to adjust it.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Okay, so
Right.
we're in control of this document,
Mhm.
and now their outside their interests.
Our representatives now are in
our
control of the document.
representatives are in control of the
And then their
document,
representatives actually are in control of the document.
And the real thing is like, who are they representing?
Yeah, themselves.
Themselves.
Or
And the
Or
corporations.
the corporations
Yeah.
that are funding the rest of their lives.
Yeah, and their
You know,
families'
like,
lives and their
you're gonna be
dynasties
good
and their political
forever.
dynasties and their careers. Yeah, exactly.
So even if it was genius that they put this part in there to say, you know, you can change the document.
Well, they were.
It was almost a focus of those who followed to say, all right, now how are we going to keep this from changing?
It was the
How are we going to
genius
keep this
of
the way we need it
It was
to
the
be?
genius of the document, but at the same time, they underestimated the weaknesses of the people who would be assuming their positions
Yeah.
later down
Yeah.
the line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
They
know what I mean? Like,
overestimated
listen,
the
we-
ambition of the future.
Yeah, you know, like I think the people who are going to be senators and congressmen of the future are going to be able to resist, you know, what's best for their own personal lives and represent the
Well,
people.
a lot of those guys argued that-
like
Mhm.
So I was gonna say a lot of those guys
we could
argued
talk at the
that
same time. That might be interesting.
Do it.
Yeah.
we get left-right channel, split it from stereo. I was gonna say a lot of those guys at that time were
Pan mic.
basing those arguments on the fact that like they would have these stipulations like yes if you keep the central bank out and yes if you know and so now there's all these issues that those forefathers have argued for and said hey if you lose this you lose the whole country. We've already lost a lot of all those guys subscribed to
Oh,
keep
yeah.
a free nation
Yeah.
and it could easily be argued that we're already you know past the point of no return and we
I
already
think if
live
they
in an
came back
empire.
now, they'd be like, "What did
I mean,
you
there's.
do?"
I feel like there's no question as
this
far as
is
I'm
nowhere
concerned.
near
Yeah.
what we were talking about.
Yeah, we're a full-blown
It's
empire.
clearly
and
empire.
yeah.
You look at all the evidence of what makes an empire, like imperialism and colonization and influence over places that they don't belong, and like violent conquest and subjugation of their home people.
Mhm.
It's all right there.
It's true. And so, what are you doing this 4th of July? Not having nothing to do with our conversation.
How are you going to celebrate?
No,
the
actually, I was thinking
fantastic-
earlier.
You
I
know
was just
what?
like, what a
Even with
sarcastic
all of
holiday
this
now.
criticism and all
Yeah,
the things that I
independence and
It's
freedom
almost
and-
like a farce.
find
Yeah.
really frustrating about what is our government. It doesn't make me any less like happy to live where I
As
live because I'm
free as we
alive,
can.
Yeah.
and like I want people
Sure.
to have better lives that are near me and not near me, and those that I can influence to think about things. That's really what I'm going for.
What you just stated right now, I think, is the one thing that so many people need to understand is the same exact thing young people in every fucking country are saying and thinking and doing. You know, the media would like us to believe all that there's this huge differences, and in general, I feel like that young people across the board, no matter religion, culture, race, and even class. That basically, and it goes without stating, really, and I'm just stating the obvious, is that, people want happy lives. They want to live and live in happiness and
It's
peace.
almost like all of our governments
they wanna
are
know that-
separating us.
Yeah, they want to know
Yeah.
their happiness doesn't come
Could
at the
that
cost
be-
of
You can't have
someone else.
nationalism if you like another country.
Say
Come
that
on.
again, Karel.
Like I feel if I went to Iran, like I could communicate. It's weird. Like when you communicate to someone on a person-to-person level, there's always a connection. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Right.
And then just when you get to be more people and different people, and then just like governments themselves just separate us. Like if we could, like if the government of the United States was not involved,
Nationalism is a
government
problem,
of
that's for
the-
sure.
of Iran was not involved, and the people of the United States, the people of Iran could meet. Like I just feel like we'd be fine.
Yeah. No,
You know what
we
I mean?
talk
Like,
about that a lot.
everyone
Yeah,
has
exactly.
The same ideals. Everyone wants the same things.
And
in
human
life.
beings have the same weaknesses and the
Yeah.
same fears and
Oh,
the
yeah.
the same vices, and like those things can be understood if we
Yeah.
take the time to
Even
understand them.
belief
Yep.
systems is just a fake difference.
Yeah.
Because what you worship and your beliefs are the same.
But
Yeah.
what is different is those experiences, specific experiences. In my travels, that's been the greatest thing is like, what are the differences? Instead of being so afraid and, of course, the other, like being able to incorporate that. Like my experiences living with Miho and Fumio. They're from Japan, and they came and, living with them and hanging with them, collaborating with them. I've just learned so much. Like when I went to Japan, like you go different places and you see, oh, well, this is the history that they have there. And you realize, like, oh, United States, of course, is this big bubble. I finally got out of it, and I see there's other
Giant
histories.
Yeah.
And like all the different bubbles and all the young people coming up inside there, like wondering about the other nations. And I would really like someday for Sulphurbath to lean towards somehow that kind of like globalist structure, but in an expansion of consciousness and sharing art and music kind of vein, instead of like what's the politics and the economics, but like
Yeah.
I
the
think you're on
artists,
the way there,
yeah, the
dude.
artists are here and the artists are there, and we should come together and talk about what the people are living through, and not so much the math of
Yeah.
economics and business.
But we're gonna
Yeah.
need the pirate internet for that. So
Yeah,
We'll have to work
that's
on that as
you're
a
you're my pirate
sub-project.
internet guy, Greg,
yeah,
by the way
we'll
too.
We'll
So
set it up.
yeah.
We'll allude
You're
to
the
it
Long
until
John
it starts
Silver
setting
of
up.
He
internet.
is. He's got to give me some deep internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but we need to have a source that can never be cut off. We need to have.
Well, you guys want to put up a satellite? It's really not that expensive.
Yeah, right.
You mean
It's
like
$8
actually put
grand
one up
to put
ourselves?
Yeah,
Like
pirate
launch?
satellites cost
I'll
less
throw
than
down for a
$10,000
satellite.
right
What,
now.
like a hot air balloon,
Into
or how do you
orbit?
do
No,
it?
a satellite. You put it into space.
And
on
it
like
stays-
a-
Broadcast your own
Like
shit.
Sputnik.
Wow. So
8,000.
next episode will be the telefund raiser.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how many of those you
Telstar.
need? You need
That
like
was the
4
first U.S. satellite,
to have
Telstar.
consistent connection or something like
No,
that.
I think you can do with one because you can use the ionosphere the rest of the time.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Oh, gorgeous.
You can help us with that, Karel? That
I could
sounds
help you
amazing.
guys with that. Yeah.
Anyone
How
else
much does it cost?
Who's listening in right now and
$8,000.
would like to help as well?
It's
Also, if
only
you guys want to go to
$8,000.
Mars on a
Prioritizing
one-way
the
trip,
space
I
program
wasn't
right
going to bring
here.
this up, but it's
One-way
still
trip?
there. One-way trip to Mars. Go to mars1.com or just Google Mars One and sign up to be one of the first human beings ever to go to Mars.
On
They're
a
taking
one-way
applications
trip.
right now. One-way trip to colonize Mars. Mars One.
Why don't you give people air, Cohagen?
They're not going to take your eyeballs, I promise.
Well, that's really true. So that's really happening? Is
That
this
is
through
really
NASA, or is
happening.
this,
If you go to Mars One right now and to their website and check out the program, you'll see that there's thousands of people already, that over 30,000 people that have signed up to try to go to Mars, to be one of the
Wow.
first groups of people to go to Mars.
And so what, they're going to do terraform and building labs and stuff
Yeah,
on the
yes,
surface of
exactly.
Mars?
Or
Wow.
they're going to die immediately, whichever.
Either way, they are going to Mars as far as they know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Who is
What if they
I mean,
miss?
not that you know, but do you know who is
Venus
heading
it
up
is.
this project?
Mars One is an organization that's associated with SpaceX, who are the people that do low Earth orbit flights. SpaceX.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can go
And you
and
can do the
to low
tourist, like,
Earth orbit
weightlessness
space. Yeah,
and-
you go
yeah.
into zero gravity. So it's these people. They want to get people to Mars faster than the original plan was from NASA, which is now defunct. Right? NASA closed.
Yeah, lost funding and
What?
now
Well,
it's
no, it
privatized
still
the space
exists. It
industry.
still
China
exists.
just brought back.
That's what I've been
Right,
wondering.
They
so-
had a big
Yeah.
thing just recently.
The privatized space industry means that commercial space is up for grabs. I
Yeah.
want to be a space pirate. Anybody that's hiring for space exploration programs, I would get in at the ground level.
You mean like
Please give
Han
me a
Solo
call.
or more like a Greedo kind
No,
of
like
thing?
the Somalian
Well, I mean,
space
like Han
pirates.
shot
Oh,
first,
okay,
so
yeah.
I'm going to go with Han.
I would like to
I
be
see.
one that they clone. Like billions
It's
of
too late
me.
for that, right? You mean like die and then later on
No,
they
like
clone you?
Boba Fett.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
I see. Yeah.
Well,
the
sorry,
Cylons?
Jango Fett.
No.
We got a lot
Too
of
many
paperwork
fets
to do
for that.
before we reach our own Clone Wars, though,
Yeah.
man. It's,
By the way, did you hear that they cloned a mouse from a drop of blood?
Yep.
Yeah, 30 mice, or maybe 300.
And they're doing okay.
Yeah, they're doing just fine. Live a normal length of life. They have offspring. They don't even have to kill the host anymore to create clones. It's very
Yeah.
interesting.
great,
Oh,
man.
great.
Drop of blood cloning just around the corner. Everybody
Yep.
get your genome researched.
So one
get
day, do
ready
you,
for
do you envision
dinosaurs,
humans
guys.
having clones instead of children?
Ooh, I don't want one. I'm
Just
an
a little
asshole.
Karel
What,
running
a
around.
child
No way.
or a clone?
But if it was
No.
yourself, then maybe you'd feel a little bit easier about
I'd be like,
I
listen,
think
kid,
it'd be
discipline.
you should practice the saxophone more and talk less. Ready to go.
Listen
Ready
to
to
me
go,
on this.
Yeah.
Would you be more or less willing to discipline a clone versus a child?
I have a feeling it would turn into the whole violent father-child picture where I want myself to do better, so I'm going to punish my clone
Mhm.
who's not doing what I think is well enough.
'Cause you're
going
gonna
to
see him as yourself in some
way.
Well,
Mhm.
somehow.
Yeah.
You're
I
not
might
going to be able to
recognize
shake
him
that.
as
You're,
me.
like,
You're
you're
like
a
a
different
stage
entity.
mom.
So
you're
you gotta-
me.
you
I
gotta-
made you. You're possible only because of me directly, personally, me. There's
Yeah.
no
There's no she in
There's
that.
no
It's
you
just
without
me.
me.
there's no binary parent.
Well, there is. There's
relationship
Well-
an egg without the insides. They
Well,
scoop the insides out of the egg and then they put in the
Mhm.
to make
Yeah.
a clone.
Yep.
You can also
not
picture
sure
the
what that
future
is.
Tom Cruises of the world who
Ugh.
clone themselves, and then their action men are just actually themselves, but
The stunt doubles.
Yeah,
are
the
just
stunt
a
doubles.
clone of Tom Cruise.
they throw them off buildings and let them get hit by boats and shit
Oh,
like that. But
jeez.
it's fine.
Oh,
'cause-
that's like the
Basically,
island. You
we
ever
know
see
what's
the
gonna
island?
happen.
yeah, right.
Clones and
Anyway.
robots. That's
All
what's
of the
gonna happen. We're
technology
gonna die
we
out.
ever make is for.
Are there going to be
making
lightsabers
movies.
though?
Yeah, that's a mystery still.
Ooh.
We don't
If
know.
there's a clone and robot war, if there's no lightsabers, I don't want to be there.
Yeah. That is
All
not
right.
a
Well,
future
we'll
I
see
wanna
you in the
live
future with or without lightsabers. Karel VanBeekom, thank you very much
When?
for joining us, man. It was
Thanks
good
for
talking
having
to
me.
you.
Thanks for
Have a
having
good
me on the show.
evening.
It's great being
Very
here.
cool. Awesome.
Thank you.
So thanks to Karel, we're going to ask Justin to come out and join us for our next segment, right, guys? We're going to do the wrap
Yeah.
things up with our artist segment.
Yes, yes.
We're going to invite Justin Baldwin out right now. Justin is an illustrator and a painter and a good friend and collaborator.
Yeah.
And we're pleased to have him here with us tonight. He recently took part in the Bushwick Open Studios that Sulphurbath took part in, showing his work and did a lot of cool illustrations for that. So, yeah, welcome, Justin. Come on out.
Yeah. Clap, clap, clap.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Hey there.
How you doing?
Hello.
All right. How you doing?
Welcome, Justin.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, doing well. So, obviously, like I said, we're gonna talk about some of your artwork, and I'd like to ask you a few questions about kind of your history as an artist and coming up, and like, yeah. So, basically run through that kind of stuff. We're also going to show some of your art images as we go. So yeah, welcome to Sulphurbath. Thanks for chilling.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
How would you describe when you first got into art? Were you a youngster or?
I think I started drawing when I was about 3.
Really, 3 years old? That's
Yeah.
cool. And like, do you remember like having a long, fluid history of illustration since then, kind of thing, or?
I've been drawing almost every day most of my life.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. I mean, it almost like a nervous habit at this point, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a nervous habit. I know one of the things that you do is when you draw on the train a lot, right? When you're
Sure.
on the
yeah.
subway.
Yeah. Since I moved to New York, I've been doing a lot of subway drawings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you know, did you want to talk about this stuff before New York, right?
Yeah, I'd like to know. Yeah, your stuff before New York, your history. When did you move to New York, and where are you from?
Well, I'm originally from Kansas. My
Mhm.
mother is from Sapporo, Japan, and
Mhm.
my father is from rural Kansas. So I spent most of my early youth in a pretty white Midwestern environment.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, man. Whoa.
Yeah, you really gotta talk into it. Yeah.
But anyway, when after I finished school, I went to Japan for about 7.5 years, kind of trying to figure out my mother's side of the equation. So
Oh, cool.
yeah,
And you became fluent there during that time and everything. You speak Japanese and all.
kind of had to survive,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah.
And you were also studying there, going to school there as well, or
Mm-mm.
you
I
were
was
working,
just like
or
teaching for a living, and then
Oh, cool.
showing art when I had the chance, traveling when I can get away with it.
now did your parents meet over there? Did they meet over here, or?
My parents met in the enrollment line at university in Kansas.
cool.
Yeah,
That's a nice story.
yeah.
And what did they study? What kind of backgrounds did they have?
Well, my mother originally was studying microbiology, but she eventually became an engineer. And my
Mhm.
father started out with, I think, chemistry, and then transferred into English somehow. He wanted to be a writer at some point.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
That's kind of a big leap, right?
sort of. Yeah, I
Yeah.
guess.
And so you spent about 7 years, you said, in Japan. Where in Japan were you living?
At first, I was in like the deep country. I was like in a part of Shikoku called Kagawa, in an area that was all rice fields and mountains. Like literally no streetlights even in some parts. It's
And
pretty
you
intense.
chose this? This was your
Well, actually, I went there as a jet. It's part of like a program from the Japanese government or whatever, and you can choose where you want to go, but there's no guarantee you'll get there.
right.
So I chose a place that was geographically not very far away from there, but completely different, actually.
Right.
Like I didn't say like, please put me in the middle of nowhere.
And they were like, so we've lost all of our openings for anywhere interesting, so you can have the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, you can go and be lost. And, yeah.
And where you were from in Kansas, you think that was a lot similar or much different?
No, not at all. I'm from Lawrence, Kansas, which is a college town.
Oh,
so
I see, yeah.
I mean, going from a college town into like the middle of the rice fields where, there literally aren't any other non-Japanese people is pretty intense.
At what age were you when you?
I was in my early 20s when I went over to Japan.
Oh, when you went over.
Yeah.
Okay.
And started living there. Like it was like a
It's like 22?
23.
23 is when
Yeah.
you showed up
Yeah.
on the
Yeah, I mean,
rice fields.
It was probably something that a lot of people don't get to experience. So in that respect, I
Yeah.
think I'm very fortunate, because it was so intense at that time that like if I was walking down the street, sometimes cars would slow down just so they could like gawk at me and like drive really slowly while I walked because they were so amazed to see somebody who wasn't from that area.
Now,
you know?
what was it about you that
Yeah.
made them so sure that you weren't from the area?
I don't think it takes much.
Yeah?
Like, they're pretty familiar with one another. And the one thing about Shikoku, like that area, is that at that time, it had not only been connected to mainland Japan by a bridge for like 11 years. So it was still kind of like traveling back in time a little bit. Like, culturally, it was a lot more old school Japan, which I think was a pretty amazing experience, actually.
I'm sure it was. What were your living conditions like when you were there? Were you in an apartment or?
Well, I lived in this weird apartment, yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of on this road, and that was about it,
Okay, an apartment on the road.
Apartment on a road.
But you had your own
apartment
place,
was
though.
on a road.
It was on a road. It was
That
a
is
long straight road.
interesting.
Actually, the thing about it that was great is that it was right in front of a road that the Bosuzoku, like the Japanese motorcycle dudes, like would race up and down every
It
night.
was straight enough.
Yeah.
Or
It was like a
whatever.
long stretch. Like so every night I got to listen to motorcycles. It was
I gotcha, the drag strip.
yeah.
Got to.
And you were making work the whole time you were living there as well, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And
yeah.
how did your work change when you were moving over in there and working there?
Oh man, it completely. I mean, I was the first time I'd ever been in an environment where I was dealing with a complete language and cultural barrier.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't really speak much Japanese when I moved to Japan.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had really rudimentary, like, I like your shoes, hello, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first thing you learn. I like your shoes.
Not exactly.
It's a good thing to know.
Maybe the second or third thing. I'm
Nice
not really
shoes.
So had you been drawing like a long time before you went there?
Sure. Yeah, I've
And
been doing
then
it my entire life.
Did you notice a shift
Well,
in anything when you got there and you were experiencing like different ways of illustration or just in general art?
well, I think that because it was the first time I'd had like a barrier linguistically and culturally,
Yeah.
it forced me to kind of really speak a little louder. And so like my work became a lot more pop as a result of living
Really?
in Japan. Like
That's
it was a
interesting
lot
take.
more understated and kind of
More average.
subtle prior to that,
Yeah.
but then it became really like pop art in a strange way because I had to kind of try and find a way that anybody could respond to, something that was familiar, universally.
We're going through online and showing some images of some of your work right now. There you have these collage bits. I remember the title for this.
Yeah, this is 8x8 1 USA. This is I can't remember the exact wording, but it's something like 8 of the characters Americans told me I resembled during the 8 years before I moved to Japan. And that's
Nice.
actually me in the center as a very young lad.
Right. And
Yeah.
I can see from here, it's kind of small, but I see Bruce Lee from here.
Yeah, there's Pat Morita, Ming the
Pat Morita.
Merciless. The usual suspects, when you're
Yeah.
from Kansas and you're kind of, off-white.
So you're kind of tracing these differences in
Marita's
culture and
eggshell.
perceptions
You're
in
not
culture as
entirely
you're there.
different.
Sure.
But
sure.
you're partially different. We can't figure it out.
Yeah, it's like an annoying in between. Yeah, please. So the next one is actually like whatever. I'm not really sure.
Yeah,
about the
there's a
timing
delay
this.
on it. Folks at home
All right.
must
So
realize that
anyway,
we're not.
it'll get there at some point. The next one is like the companion. It's called 8x8 2 JPN, and it's basically just after living in Japan for almost 8 years, it's 8 of the characters that Japanese people often told me I resembled.
Is that Colonel
during the
Sanders
years.
in that one?
Oh
Is
yeah,
what
I
you're
got
saying?
that a lot. Yeah.
Colonel
Really?
Sanders,
Huh.
huh?
What really freaked me out
Yeah.
was that people thought I looked like Homer Simpson or
That's
or,
kind of
or
far
Buzz
fetched.
Lightyear,
Yeah, Buzz
That's
Lightyear.
very
or
difficult for me
Mr.
to
Incredible,
place.
like
Oh
it's.
my god.
I mean, it's one thing to be told that you look like a human being, but when you get into the realm of animated characters,
Right.
it messes with your
You
sense
remind
of
me
self.
of Barney a little bit.
Yeah.
And so
Kinda
this
hybrid.
kind of
I see it.
perception of self-identity, you were kind of drawing into your work and doing pieces like this a bit, right?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was fresh out of Kansas and Japan for the first time, so it was a natural thing to explore
Mm-hmm.
early on, back then.
Now, would you say that you, because you said before that you found your art to get more pop, do you say that in a very, I guess, in a global sense, or was it very Japanese pop that you were finding yourself into, or was it a more international type of popular culture?
Well, I think initially it was more, excuse me, where I come from, so it was more Japanese and American. And I think the longer I lived in Japan, the more it kind of branched out to other Asian cultures.
Mm-hmm.
Just naturally, as I traveled more, studied more, experienced more, it just made sense,
Yeah.
I don't actually know what's next. What's the next slide?
We're gonna keep flipping through them. I'm not sure. I remember the one that you did that was like a Japanese style Ronald McDonald.
Okay.
I think that one might be coming
That's
up
the
right
next
next. Yeah. What is that image? That's
That's the McDemon.
Yeah.
I got really fascinated with commercial culture, like archetypes and characters, because I was thinking about a lot of my work deals with values and belief systems, and I kind of thought of like Shintoism, Japanese. That's like there's like a god for everything.
Mhm.
There's like the Shinto god of wind and rice and fire and everything else. There's
the
like,
kami.
Yeah,
right?
well, the kami-sama. They're everywhere. And I got the idea to make new gods, from Max Shinto, like McDonald's and Shinto combined. And this guy is one of those Shingami-sama, the new gods of Shinto.
Oh, that's super cool.
McShinto, I should say.
McShinto,
McShinto.
as opposed to McDemon.
Well, he's the McDemon of McShinto. Yeah, I mean, there were actually a whole series of these guys, but I didn't compile pictures
Any
of all
other
of them.
specifically branded ones?
Oh, there was the Kentucky Fried Buddha. That was
Right.
one that, but I didn't actually bring that one to
Kentucky
Did
Fried
Wendy
Buddha.
make it
The
into
Kentucky
it at
Fried
all?
Buddha. What's that?
Wendy, did she make it?
I didn't actually go there, man. I don't know why. I just wasn't feeling Wendy
Yeah.
the way I was feeling the Colonel.
Yeah.
Who knows? I think it's because those two are like the top two, like the big
Yeah.
dogs
Yeah.
of like fast food culture.
Well, I think that's why I immediately went to Wendy, because
Yeah.
like you're number
Yeah,
3.
KFC is huge
solidly.
there.
Yeah, it's huge. They still have like metal statues of the Colonel everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. These were some interactive. One of the things I did to try and bridge, culture and language barriers was to do interactive projects. So I did these projects with, I made these masks out of like that collage you just saw of the McDemon, and I made like a mask shop that was similar to what Japanese people see in festivals or whatever.
Mhm.
So everyone could immediately relate with it, just on kind of a fun level. And then
Cool.
if they did certain things, like there's certain interactive things that we could do, and then the result would be that they chose the mask that they liked. They'd have their photograph with and without the mask, and then that would actually be added to the larger piece. And then in exchange, as a kind of gift of thanks, they'd take a mask home that was signed and
Oh,
dated.
cool. That sounds
Yeah,
awesome.
It's like a kind of a, it wasn't a very financially smart thing to do, but it was. It's
Art
pretty,
rarely
Yeah.
leads to financial freedom.
This was even more ill-advised than usual.
It's actually spending money.
Because,
I
I
didn't
ended
have.
up giving away like
Yeah.
over 400 of those masks.
Mm.
So,
Jeez.
Mhm.
yeah. But
Yeah,
it
and
was
it-
worth it.
Again, it's dealing with self-identity and
Yeah, or
how
what.
that can change and be perceived.
Well, the funny thing is, like, people often chose masks that look like themselves, which is why I chose this picture in particular. Because
Oh,
the
interesting.
people
yeah.
actually sort of resemble the weird, mask they chose.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's a conscious thing or what, but
Mhm.
yeah. What's next?
It was a vanity thing.
Yeah,
vanity
like
thing.
attracts like,
We
and the
like
vanity.
ourselves.
It's
Yeah.
like that Twilight Zone, man.
As much as we
The masks.
probably act
Yeah,
like we
with
don't,
the old
I
man.
think a lot of the time we're very satisfied with ourselves. Maybe it's part of our culture,
Mm.
being all American. I mean, we've all spent our time in different places. Some of us more than the others, but maybe it's a very American sentiment that we're pretty cool.
I guess we like to think we're pretty cool. Yeah. It's kind of reassuring to think you're cool. Yeah. There's the actual mask shop. That's how it was installed. So
Oh, cool.
as people participated, their photographs were added to the grid, and it became this larger piece
Oh, nice.
with a record of all the people that were kind enough to give me some time, conversation. I mean, that was the best part about it, was that the interactive thing really just functions as an excuse to meet people and
Mhm.
like have interesting conversations with people from all over the world. Because
Yeah.
I did this several times in Japan. I did it in Hiroshima at one point, and there are people from everywhere showing up because it's such an international city. So it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what do you see this image here? What's this? This is somebody showing up to view this exhibition.
Right,
here.
right. It's somebody like participating in an early version of the project. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
so we're
we
gonna
probably
run
should
through a
move
bunch.
forward.
Yeah, we're gonna run
Yeah.
through a bunch of your images here. We're just gonna
'Cause it could
kind of
take
pop
forever.
through them. Yeah, because we got a lot of them here. We want to show people at home that are listening. But I know you have tons of work, and you've done lots of different gallery shows, both in Japan and here in New York City, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
So as we're going through these images, can you talk to us a little bit about your move back from Japan to New York City and how that influenced your work?
Well, and we'll get to that. I mean, I think we should just keep going with the images while I talk, just
Mhm.
move forward. But when we get to the second set of images, that's all New York, where it starts off. And I think the first thing that New York did was kind of clobbered me with diversity,
Mm-hmm.
because instead of it being more of an American versus Asian culture thing, it became like the entire world is just everywhere all the time situation, Like, so I was drawing on trains, as you mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a pretty intense cultural classroom, You have like people from every country in the world hanging out in a close space with you. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's so multifaceted, and you can walk down the streets here in New York City and hear every language in the world, literally.
yeah, it's pretty amazing. I love it.
And so, but a lot of your work was about identity and about even, to some sense, trying to trace your own identity in your art, right?
Yeah.
So when you hit New York, suddenly you're in a larger pond and such a vast network of people and other artists and everything. Did you find that it was easy to move into New York at first from your experiences in Kansas and Japan? Or did you hit the ground running? Like, what was your experience moving into the city
It took
like?
me a while to get my sea legs. New York was a brand new experience, It was, in some ways I think it was more intense than moving to rural Japan,
Oh, yeah.
actually. Yeah.
And how long have you been in the city now?
I've been here since 2006, so I guess about 7 years.
Mm-hmm. About 7 years.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Hey, Les, could you move to the next set? Would you mind? Yeah, sorry, man. You could skip a bunch of those and just move into the train stuff.
Yeah,
if
we
you
might have
want.
to. You got
It's
a lot
probably
of
better,
lot of images in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the folks at home will see you as you go through them. What's that one? That's just images of some color work you did.
It's a triptych of collages made out of children's play money,
Oh, cool.
like Japanese children's yen.
And then I've always loved this one. It's like the Torii as
Children's
the
yen?
Yeah,
What is
Kodomo
that?
Ginko.
Like
Like play money, like paper
like
money
Monopoly
for kids.
money.
Yeah, yeah,
And I've always loved this image. It's like the Torii McDonald's sign.
yeah. The McShinto drive-through, sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. Is that a watercolor?
No, that was like a oil pastel. I don't know. Is it solvent transfer? A few other things. I can't even remember everything I did with that. But
Mm-hmm.
What's on the menu at the McShinto drive-thru? What do you get there?
I don't think it's anything that you're gonna want to eat. That's for sure. Pretty unsavory. You know.
But at least I get to pay for it at the
Fire
end.
and brimstone. You might be able to catch a sulphur bath while you're there.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sure.
And
that
they're
works.
switching up right
Oh,
now to
okay.
one of your mobile works. You also do this woodwork, right? Is this all?
Oh yeah, that's one of the sculptures, right? Sure.
Yeah.
These are all handmade mobiles, and I think what do you use?
Mobile?
Balsa wood or what do you?
They're basswood.
Basswood?
And basswood with like photo elements and hemp twine and stuff. All
Mhm.
handmade. Yeah, I don't know what's next, but
And those are a whole series of things too,
Okay.
as well, right?
yeah, they kind of like they relate to these other things that I made, like these flying houseboat things. I think that's coming up next, maybe.
Yeah.
So are these made in
Yeah.
New York, or is this still,
Yeah.
still in Japan? This is
Yeah.
your.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've been making these. I made them actually. I started building again after I moved back to the States. I didn't build very much in Japan, and a lot of these ideas I kind of like mulled over during the years I was there, though.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But it was somehow coming back here gave me the reason to build finally. I
It's
don't know.
funny because when you look at them, though, I get the impression they're very Japanese in origin, just
Sure.
from the materials and the way that they're formed. Because I'd seen a bunch of them, just hanging,
Sure. Yeah.
But when you look at them, you get a sense of that. But it's funny that you hadn't even really began it.
Well, you know,
Mhm.
Begun that till you got here.
Mhm.
those houseboats actually. I got that idea before I went to Japan, and then never
Ah.
figured out how to make it. It was a technical issue partially because they're very difficult to make. So I procrastinated for a long time. It's like a lot of things are difficult to start, you know.
Yeah.
And after I got back from Japan, about a decade had passed, and it just seemed like it was the right time. I don't know.
That's cool. And you have a whole variation of those too. You have the wood, the mobiles,
Sure.
the boats,
Every one
and
of
also a lot
those.
of those have like little tiny, smaller origami works inside of them too, right?
Right. They'll have really tiny folded cranes and little houseboats inside them.
And so what we're showing right now is actually the spread of your illustrations from the gallery show.
Yeah. This
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. This is actually a bunch of subway drawings. I think it's like 39 of them, with black tape lines connecting them, kind of illustrating a hierarchy. They're all employees of a fictional corporation.
Okay. And what is that corporation? A fictional.
I don't know. It's probably also quite unsavory. I think
Mhm.
it's right up there with McShinto.
Not the kind
Okay.
of thing that you've really, not the kind of thing that you've really fleshed out in a very realistic way. Just sort of a shadow of what influences their connection.
Well, I play around with like unpleasant slogans, and they kind of give me a glimpse of what we're really doing. But
Do you
it's
have
just
any to
not.
share?
I'll get back to you on
No,
that.
it's funny because like these were up during the Bushwick Arts, the open
Yeah,
spaces.
they were up in the gallery for Bushwick Open Studio.
So I mean, but when you look at it, it's put together. And what I got from it was almost like I don't know if you remember these like court cases during the 80s and 90s about like mob families.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I get the and they
Right.
and they
It's-
tell you
we
where
got
like
Papagino up here.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like Giacotti was up here, and like Gotti was over there. Like I get the feeling from looking at it, the way that the whole thing was constructed, that this was a
Sort of
nefarious
sinister hierarchy.
organization. Yeah.
Well, I have a day job pushing paper in Midtown for a Japanese corporation, and I think that.
They have a sinister hierarchy too.
Well, I'm not going to get into that. But I think that just being exposed to that kind of culture is a big factor in
Yeah.
why I
Yeah.
do these things. I mean, it's based on the organization charts that corporations have, where
Yeah.
they literally have like CEO, VP, blah blah
It's
blah.
extremely dehumanizing.
Yeah, it's really.
I find that every time that because I experience the same thing in my job.
Mm.
It's just such a very strange way to represent a person.
Well, it's so absurd because I don't necessarily respect people just because they're paid a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I don't actually think
I
somebody's
often
great because
think
they're high
very
ranking.
oppositely.
I don't really understand it.
Yeah.
But how deep does the mythology go in these images that we're looking at? I mean, there's tons of different characters, and there's so much detail in each one.
Sure.
So you have this one spread where they're all connected in this one hierarchy. But where's the mythology come from? I mean, is this?
It's I think it's kind of a hodgepodge of whatever I grew up kind of consuming culture-wise,
Mhm.
and also I've been really interested in a lot of symbolism in general. Like I've been studying like Dutch masterwork and stuff, and
Cool.
getting into like weird alchemy imagery and all sorts of stuff. And I think that I just like to mix these kinds of symbols up, kind of recontextualize things that are ancient and kind of imply something universal but a bit ambiguous, maybe. Kind of give people a little more to make their own know.
Yeah, that's often. A lot of them have like this really great, like traditional Japanese garb on the character, or like the samurai garb, and then I love how you use like the backgrounds of the flowers and the fire,
Oh, thank
and
you.
a lot of times it's like the flowers become leaping flames kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, they're pretty densely layered. There's
Yeah,
a lot
they're so
of,
detailed,
You know,
and this whole series we're looking at is all done on the train. Or do you sit
Yeah.
at home and do these at night as well?
they're probably, if I do any touch up, it's probably less than 5% of the overall process.
And when you
know.
say like these were done on a train, was that for a purpose, or like what, or were they people? Like, are they based on like just random?
Yeah, these people you see on the
Riders,
train or
Or
something.
is this
or
when you have
you know,
time?
yeah, or
Well-
is this just like, yeah, exactly. Is this when you're like, I'm locked in for 45 minutes while I ride this thing?
No, I started drawing on trains because my first living situation I had no space, and I was unaccustomed to New York and the pace of it, and I had no time. So initially it was a purely pragmatic thing. It was like I'll draw on the train to maximize the efficiency of my time. And then it became something that I actually really enjoyed because I realized that I'm a compulsive people watcher, and the train is just an embarrassment of riches when it comes to that kind of thing. you know?
Yeah.
So I realized I loved it, and I realized that it was an interesting way to kind of, have some kind of an interface with the people around me without actually dealing with them in a real, direct or invasive way. Like, I don't actually draw real people. I never draw actual passengers. There are no unwitting subjects.
Right.
I'm not into exploiting people that way. But
Yeah.
I'm sure they assume it anyway, but that's just so you know, I don't do that.
Yeah.
But people contribute in terms of just the tone or the vibe of the overall thing. Because, everyone knows who lives in New York that the subway has a very distinct,
Yeah.
especially at rush hour in the morning and in
Yeah.
the evening,
Well, I know when
And-
I'm on the train, I very often like I'm an observer too.
Look at that.
You know, when you're an observer, you just watch like who people are, what time of day it is, what train they're on, where they're going. I wonder what they're doing. Who are they going to see?
Why do they
You know,
look so unhappy?
You know, why are they unhappy? Why are they
Right.
sleepy? You know,
That's
you
my
just like
most
you
common
you
question.
watch people and your eyes dart back and forth from face to face.
Oh, yeah.
And, and you just as an observer, you just get that.
Well, the early subway drawings were like me trying to kind of come to terms with New York. So I was doing a lot of like archetypical drawings of different characters or kinds of people that I had never encountered before, but mythologizing them kind of,
Mhm.
And then later it became this whole corporate thing. But initially it was
Yeah.
more about belief systems or mythology.
But I think that's interesting that you made that sort of bridge to this corporate thing, because in a sense, in the time I've spent here in New York, I had a lot of time where I was in school, but there's a lot of time where I was, having a job, working full time, and this was like almost my second experience of New York, and there is this very mythological sense to the corporate hierarchy. It's very, very odd.
Yeah.
When you're a part of it, and so I'm always on the outside looking in, and I always see the influence that this power structure has had on the people that are like in it. And it's very, in my opinion, frightening. I don't like it at all.
Yeah. Well, I hear you. And Blaine made a comment earlier about belief systems kind of being like constructs or whatever, and kind of things we impose on reality to kind of make sense of it. And I think that's a very perfect example of that, But I think
Yeah.
any kind of group of human beings kind of forced to occupy the common space and deal with each other in one way or another in a job, they develop their own kind of interpersonal mythology.
Yeah.
They're kind of
Yeah.
obvious myths. And I think all human beings kind of do that to themselves too. I mean, we can't really help it. We're kind of like we're all raised on all this
We love
stuff, right?
stories.
Like we're so meta at this point. How could we possibly be in touch with reality all the way?
Well said. Well said.
I mean,
Well put.
Yeah.
Very well put.
yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah. So also just we're
This-
wrapping up here. I just want to ask a last couple questions just about your work in this performance that we showed a few minutes ago. People were able to see the pictures all up on the wall as the hierarchy, but then there were also a few color images in there. So I just want to mention that you spent a long time without painting in color at all, right?
Right. Yeah.
Pen and paper.
When I was a student, I actually have a painting degree, but I stopped painting. I think my second year of college. I had some bad experiences, and I stopped painting for about 20 years, and then I've been hanging out with a good friend of mine named Dane, who's an excellent painter, and I think just seeing him paint really got me excited about painting in a way I hadn't even thought about literally in 2 decades. So, yeah, it's fun.
And is that what you're pursuing now? I mean, you still do the train drawings, but are you painting a lot more now, even after these few? Or?
I'm always doing a lot of things at the same time. I'm always building stuff, and I'm simultaneously painting stuff and drawing stuff, and then I'm coming up with new ideas for, like, I'm working on interactive ideas, which I may or may not do, and I'm working on actually a corporate handbook for my company.
Oh, cool.
You know?
Cool.
Yeah.
Like maybe something that actually shows like a photograph of the org chart, and then some of the key players and the power structure, the big dogs.
History,
Yeah, exactly.
mission statement.
Very
Oh,
cool.
that's gonna be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
What's the philosophy of this corporation? We want to
Yeah,
know.
I've actually already. I've already got some test covers and stuff.
sounds
and
amazing.
Do you say
slogans,
what the
yeah.
company does?
Well, they certainly exploit things. That's for sure.
Well, I
don't
think
know.
that that's a
Our
really
main
Exploiting
export
dreams.
is
Yeah.
exploit.
In a lot of the corporate like propaganda, I'll call it,
Mm.
that I've seen and experienced, it's always very nondescript about like what the company does. I always when I consult for corporations, I often have to ask, what do you do here? And there are times where people just kind of laugh as if they don't know either.
Because they're consultants also.
I
it never
have a very
ends.
specific role.
It's just a web of confusion,
Yeah.
really. We synergize.
So, Justin, can you share the webpage? You have a webpage where anybody at home can go and look through your artwork
Right,
and stuff,
it's
right?
Anyone at home with internet.
www.justinbaldwin.net. So
Cool.
just justinbaldwin.net.
JustinBaldwin.net.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. And be careful. There are a couple other, Justin
JustinBaldwin.net.
Baldwins in the world that you could stumble across if you get that wrong.
JustinBaldwin.net.
There's even like another artist named Justin Baldwin, which kind of irks me, but
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
What's his
man.
stuff like?
.com.
it's totally different. Thank goodness.
His is
Yeah.
totally .com.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is. I think it's .com, but don't go to justinbaldwin.com.
Yes.
It's justinbaldwin.net.
.net.
Yeah.
Net. That's
There's also
N-E-T.
Justin Baldwin Wineries. Have you ever heard of that guy?
No.
Yeah, there's some guy that contacted me one time, wanting me to like come to his vineyard and like illustrate one of his like
Really?
wine labels. Yeah, he's like, we have the
Mm.
same name and it's a great name. You should come to my
Just because he
vineyard."
wanted
And I was
people
like,
to say, oh, drawn by Justin Baldwin, and all his friends were like, oh, you're
I'm gonna
amazing.
be honest, I'd be tempted
thought about
to
it, you
take
know.
that
Yeah.
job. You know?
Thought
Like,
about
I'd
it.
do
So the bottom
label, I
line
think
is you
I
didn't
think
do
I'd
it.
do it.
Yeah.
I was on the fence and I just didn't get
And
around
the
to dealing with
fence
the
got
logistics.
very
Yeah,
I bet you could
Yeah.
do a really cool wine label, though. That would be really sweet.
Well, I could always write the guy back.
Or we
Yeah.
could just make a
Yeah.
fake wine and have you do one for us.
Sure. Yeah.
Or a
Yeah.
real wine, stomp on some grapes.
Whatever we feel like.
Yeah.
A label. How about just a label for a wall? Just saying, don't
Justin
bump into this
Baldwin
wall. Or
walls.
We
something.
should just
Yeah.
have like a fictional winery that I make labels for.
There you go. There you go.
The real Justin Baldwin winery might get a little bit
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
I have a fictional
But,
vineyard.
I'm down. Let's do it. Next episode.
Awesome.
Do it.
They got those good Brooklyn grapes. And there's
Well,
no space.
Actually, I do have a grapevine growing in a trellis in my backyard. We
You're
could- we
already
could harvest
started,
that
man.
stuff.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's Queens though. No,
You just
yeah,
need
it's
a
Queens,
get
though.
to
We
work
just
on the
gotta
label.
beat the birds.
it's not really
Ah.
Brooklyn.
Yeah, sorry.
And you need a vat
Mm.
and
Yeah.
some Lucille Ball kind of stomping on it
Yeah.
kind of situation.
Oh yeah, some crazy. I love Lucy action.
I'll be there to help stomp grapes with you, man, in the future.
I'll
Cool.
be there to drink it.
Awesome.
Great, right from our toes.
I'll
Sounds
let
great.
you know when it's closer to the date.
Yeah, so that's everybody's jobs as far as the winery. All right, so yes, thank you very much, Justin, for joining us.
Thank you
Yeah,
guys.
it's awesome.
We're gonna wrap everything up and say goodbye to everybody.
Isn't there like
Yeah.
a musical thing?
Goodbye,
No, we're
everybody.
just gonna stay on the camera now. Yeah, we're gonna do a little
I-
goodbye session with a
soon.
musical thing
Yeah.
that's gonna be led by Fumio Tashiro. Welcome, Fumio. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Fumio. Fumio is our in-house resident musician that teaches us. He's playing upright bass and doing some
Amazing
loops.
bass.
And we're all gonna basically just kind of do an improvised experimental jam with him to say goodbye.
Let's just have some fun.
So we're gonna have some fun, yeah.
Yeah.
So stretch it out a little bit first. Yeah.
Alright.
Just some
Kinda
calisthenics.
give him a little more elbow
Flip up
room.
the old. Oh yeah.
Oh,
That's
and thank you guys for joining us.
Yep. Thanks, man.
That's beautiful. You want to do a duet? No, well, I'll let you do your thing. I think I want to pick up the guitar and see what. The wit. The wit. The wit. Maybe I'll do a tap dance. You should do a tap dance. I'm thinking about it. A couple of buffaloes. Nice steps. Don't tempt me. That ball chain and whatnot.
So you guys always do like a farewell jam session? Is that kind of the way it works? Yeah. You're like the avant-garde house band. Took the whole thing.
Pissed and leaves bad cheese. Scraped me away. Calisthenics. Playing fence. Playing deliver the stolen goods. Could be time to be jolly. It could be time to be far-reached. Side streets and not be so exact. Hear it now and call it back. That's what we do until we're away from the track. Tidings, silence, tidings, silence, tidings, and silence. Crystal label arranged in guitar, please. Branching leaves to move it. To be buried with his wine, cursed from urethra to spine. Pest, 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 Be honest and pitched. Balance is shield and sheltered from tortoise beginning. And bring your baby to the beach. Let rockin' bring rocking and tolu. Been calling what you say. As I could never be the one who would choose for you to walk away. And darkly carved of wood you would whisper to me. I could not hear your blues. But back to me and belch me what you think. Don't think of it unless you're the one who can choose. Aluminum tissening today. Blanch me and bleach me proper. Sit and google you, sit and google free. over from you, what could it say? Oh, to be round, that's what you would choose to be grounded, possible frame. Viva, 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 viva cabarose. Could it be rose? Could it be near me? I sit on my toes and balling watch you rose. With wake-eyed and thorns would be crawling. And it's fortuitous and be with me as we are live in brunch. Hold my virtual hand and brag to me as at breakfast as we travel. And waking up in a foreign land. But Brighton Beach is beyond my reach. Could it be with a lovely? But for now I will breach, and something I couldn't stomach would be a moment to regret. And peace, been walking as to a sky, and peace could be walking as to an ant, as to a scat, as to a sweater in June. Hey, broken ways, give me a word you don't believe, but promise me you will say it with relief as you twist away another day. There's a phenomenal amount of talent in this room right now. I would like to thank all of my friends, all the musicians and artists that have joined us tonight. Let's give it up for Nick Chen, Enix. He's playing drums right now. Thank you, Nick. You're awesome. Also like to thank Fumio Tashiro playing upright bass and leading us into our improvised session. Thank you, Fumio. You're the man. Thank you. With our back to us tonight right now, you can't really see him. Karel VanBeekom's been jamming on the piano. Very cool. There he is, waving a hand. Thank you, Karel. That's fucking awesome. Got Blaine Kneece playing acoustic guitar over here on the side for us during our acoustic improvised jam. Thank you, Blaine. That's really awesome. I'd like to thank Greg Becker, my co-host, and also joining us on hands. I want to thank Leslie Hodgkins for helping us do the live switch tonight's show. That's really cool, Les. Thank you, man. There he is. Ow! I want to thank Justin Baldwin for talking to us about his art and sharing his images. Thank you so much, Justin. It was really good having you, man. Awesome. I want to thank Miho Marita for doing the camera work, being behind the camera the whole night. Thank you, Miho. Nice. This is a fantastic way to roll out. So I'm just going to get up and let these guys jam for a little longer before we hit the off switch. So I want to say thank you guys for joining us in the Sulphurbath. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend. Have a good evening. Awesome. Good night.